Linda's
Wow,
house
okay,
before it
so
went.
Abby,
You missed that one too.
Abby is gonna be here. She has to deal with her dog sitter. So she said she'd be here before 5.
It's tough having kids.
Yes.
Well, we have other stuff that we have to do anyway before we start,
Yeah,
so.
so I figured it'd be okay. Shall I get it rolling?
Yeah,
Okay, let's go. Okay, everyone, I'm calling this meeting of the Nantucket Historic District Commission to order. It is 4:33 on Tuesday, January 28th. Present at today's meeting are John McLaughlin, Stephen Welch, Diane Coombs, Val Oliver, and myself, Ray Pohl, at the moment. Hi, Holly. Oh, and Abby Camp. Let's add her.
yabba dabba doo.
Let's add her to the list.
B.
Okay,
Too excited.
for those of you sitting in the audience, we have 2 requests that we make of you every week. One is if you are planning to record any portion of tonight's meeting, please let us know in advance. And the second is if there are any conversations taking place other than at this table, we'd like you to take them out into the hall so that we can hear what's being said at the table for our minutes. Thank you. Any modifications to this agenda?
Yes.
I should know, be aware of?
So towards the, pardon, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
the bottom of the agenda,
Yes.
the emeritus applications, 21 through 24,
21 through 24.
And number 26, the BPC application,
ACK properties.
will not be here tonight, and they have signed up for old business next week.
I'm sorry,
very-
Kathy, Mr. Chairman, could you repeat the last one?
Yeah, well, we got 21 through 24,
No.
right? And then 26. So all of those are being stricken from tonight's agenda. Got that, John? Okay.
21 through
Okay,
24.
21 through 24, all of Matt's projects are going to be heard next Tuesday, as is number 26. Okay?
Next
So,
Tuesday.
can we have a motion from one of you?
Motion.
Thank you. That is as modified.
Right.
All those in favor of Diane's motion to approve this agenda?
Aye.
Thank you. Is there any public comment at this time? Hearing none, we will move along to our consent agenda. Now, let's see, do we have any people? Val, you need to,
Yeah,
you know, Val, did I name you in, who was at president?
Yeah.
tonight's- I did?
Yeah.
Oh boy, that's my concussion. Acting up.
Am I
Okay,
here?
So, yeah, Val has to recuse. Do any of you other folks need to recuse? I don't believe so.
I don't think so.
Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 members. Yes, John. No, we have not yet.
Okay.
Val is recusing because she's got a couple of projects on there, but so it's the remaining 5 of us. May I?
Motion to approve consent.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Stephen has made a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now we move along to consent with, yes, oh, okay. 4 in favor, 1 abstention. Terry, thank you. Consent with conditions.
Motion to approve consent with conditions.
Thank,
I'm on that one.
oh yeah, actually you're not. You're recusing from that one.
Right.
Right.
Okay, so same board. Stephen has made a motion. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And John, you are abstaining from the consent with conditions, correct? Okay, 4 in favor, 1 abstention. Okay, Holly, it's to you. You've got the microphone.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, as on your agenda, I would like to have a discussion with you all regarding nickel gray as an appropriate roof shingle color. You've been notified of a copy of, or a set of shingles to look at. This is in response to receiving like-kind applications for seafoam green, where we don't have seafoam green anymore. So that's what that item is for.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
just to follow up on that, if I may, back in late November, before Thanksgiving, the question came up about an alternative for downtown, and thanks to Holly, I was able to contact a roofing contractor who ordered a set of 3-tab shingles and brought them over to the two Fairgrounds building in the mezzanine area, which I set up, and notice was given to all the members a couple of times, I think actually a few times now,
Yes.
to please take a look. With respect to my own opinion on them, just to have shared, having looked at them closely a number of times now, and having set up the original approvable color roof shingles for the historic districts and tallied those votes, and then reported back to you all, I think that I would suggest that they are acceptable, and I would recommend that we approve them.
Great.
I'll make a motion to approve the nickel gray roof shingles.
Okay, now,
I went and saw them, I agree.
Yes.
Motion to approve the nickel gray.
I want to sort out a procedural thing.
Okay.
So there's actually 6 people now. So Stephen, you're the only associate member?
Just commenting on,
Okay.
for the record,
so, all
not
right,
voting.
Thank you. So it would be the regular board that's voting on this. Do we have anyone who does not agree that this shingle color should go on our list? We're all in favor of?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry, Abby, you made a motion, did you not?
Did.
Okay. Abby has made a motion to approve this additional shingle color to be added to our list of approved colors in the OHD. All those in favor of Abby's motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Very good. Thank you, Holly. Now, how about our driveway access?
Yes, thank you, commissioners. So at this next town meeting, with discussions with both commission as well as the historical commission and discussions with town staff, I have proposed an amendment to Article 129 30.1. Apologize, I'm trying to get over there to going backwards here. But essentially what this does is get the HDC certificate of appropriateness included in the conversation. So as you can see on the bottom, it would include the language, a certificate of appropriateness issued by the Nantucket Historic District Commission is required prior to driveway access approval by the DPW for lots located within the core historic districts as shown on the map entitled Core Historic Districts dated April 9, 2019, as may be amended from time to time by the HDC. And that map is this map that you all reference on a day-to-day basis.
So, I think that is a very good addition to the warrant, and because it comes up on question, and it's already done, or the DPW does it, and it isn't what we want, or it doesn't fit in, and I think that's an excellent addition. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, that definitely tidies it up, because there was always a disconnect there.
There is a disconnect,
Yeah.
and I will say that through discussions with DPW staff, they have been communicating with Plus staff, myself, on whether or not an applicant has received HDC approval. And there's not necessarily, everybody realizes that a certificate of appropriateness is required for hardscaping for driveways. This ties people down. This says, you know what, if you're gonna do one, whether it needs a planning board approval or not, it needs the COA approval from you all before they can move forward. So it's cleaning up that process. And I received unanimous approval from the Historical Commission, so I'm also asking for support from you all as well.
That's great, Holly.
It will be presented to the planning board for their review and hopefully approval for a positive recommendation towards town meeting, and that is scheduled for the February 10th meeting. So,
Okay. Thanks.
Holly, I have a question.
yes, sir.
I can't see that file.
Oh,
Sorry.
No? Okay. Hope 2 weeks ago, okay.
I know it's hard.
This is a zoning article, right?
correct.
Yeah. All right. Can you go back to what
The
you
map?
said? The blue is,
So John, the reason Holly put this document up there is this is the map showing all of our core districts. And so the addition to the zoning article that Holly is proposing is that we, the HCC, as a board, gets to pre-review the driveway cuts before it goes to the DPW in these districts. So it's, you know, these are the maps that we've all known for a while and agreed to. So there's no proposed change to any of this. She was just showing that to show that those.
Red and green, in the old historic areas.
The blue line is the core, your local designated historic districts.
HTC is,
Incorrect, for both town and Sconset.
Yeah,
Even though you do have purview over the entire island because we're an NHL, this is for the local districts.
Correct.
You know, maybe down the road that is looked at a little bit differently, but this gets the ball rolling for the core historic sensitive areas, if you will.
let me re-ask that. The red on the left, no, the blue is the old historic, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
Zoning.
Right, and
Well-
the right, the blue is the old historic.
Well,
Yeah.
one of them is a zoning district.
Correct.
And one of them is us.
Which-
There's a difference
Right.
between the zoning and the HDC.
There are areas around the ROH that are not zoned. There are R1 or R5, which the planning board, you know, eventually will be phasing out. I can tell you that at some point through subsequent town meetings. So that's why this map is that way. The GIS indicates over here what your actual district is that was done back in the 50s.
The blue.
The blue. The lines that are green and red are, again, there's the zoning districts that were indicated. I'm just using the map that was previously approved with our GIS department.
So nothing's changing on the maps, John.
Correct.
Nothing's changing.
But we need to tie down so people know, hey, am I in the core historic districts? Oh, look, based on this map, I am. So as long as you're in that blue line, you have to go to the HDC prior to receiving a DPW approval.
Put in the road cut? Driveway?
For driveway, yes.
Yes.
You'd have to come here anyway, didn't you?
Yeah.
This gives it a vetted process. This makes it so people know they have to come to you all in order for them to go to the DPW. And that's what the DPW is looking for. They're looking for guidance on this because they don't want to approve something that's historically sensitive that doesn't receive your approval.
Holly, would you mind flipping back to the language?
Yes.
Just for a second. So I just want to point something out, if I may, Mr. Chairman. Unlike some other articles that are floating around, this clarifies that basically the certificate of appropriateness that we issue in any case is used a certain way in a certain time by another town department versus our having to change our act. So I just
Yes.
wanted to point out the language does not involve changing a special act the way I've read it and been informed, and I believe that's correct.
Yes, yes,
Which is more expeditious.
Yeah,
yes. Absolutely.
thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion on this?
I think it's a great idea.
It's good.
Do we vote on it or just
Do we vote on it?
discuss?
Yeah. Well, you're welcome to discuss if you have anything
No.
in particular.
And with that, staff would greatly appreciate a letter of support, if at all possible.
Oh, of course. No
I
problem.
make a motion
Yes.
to have our chairman write a letter of support on that subject. You want the one on the
Driveway.
roof shingles or anything? Do you need anything else or just on that one?
Just that one.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, okay, so that is a motion. All those in favor of Diane's motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Okay,
great.
motion to recommend
The
it.
motion is to recommend, and I will write a letter supporting it, Okay,
Thank you.
so that was the motion. I believe you're in, John, right?
Yeah.
You're good? Okay, thanks. Okay, next up, the Preservation Guidelines Consultant Meeting. That's
Yes.
just an announcement, really.
Yes, so I just wanted to let the commission know that after a long overdue time, we are going to be kicking off our Resilient Nantucket Design for Adaptation project. This is from the MVP, the Massachusetts Vulnerability Preparedness Grant that we received from the MVP program, to create our historic guidelines specifically for our FEMA flood zone areas. We have secured a consultant. And we're starting. We've got unfortunately, because of procurement time frame, we've got a shorter time frame working on this. But we're going to be having our kickoff meeting with the chairs from both the Historical Commission and HDC, and that will be scheduled. It's open to the public as well. So of course, if you all are going to attend, please let staff know so we can publicly post that. But that's going to be scheduled for February 14th. That's going to be scheduled in the morning time. I don't know. I don't have an exact time frame yet, but it will be downstairs in the community room. And just to do a brief overview, again, this builds up on our MVP community resilience workshop that we did, our HMP, the Hazard Mitigation Plan, which outlined that this is very important, as well as discussions that you all have had. And this works on the program that the Preservation Institute Nantucket did along with the town of Nantucket and NPT with the Resilient Nantucket, the 3D digital documentation sea level rise that we had the Keeping History Above Water conference this past summer. So all of that is built upon. And it's broken into 3 phases. We're gonna have one workshop that's gonna be scheduled. And I literally had a conference call with the consultant today, so that's why it's moving pretty quickly. We're looking at doing our first community workshop forum on March 26th, and I will send out more detailed information for you all and get this information out in the public as well. The next one will be in May 28th, and then our following kickoff or our following, basically, here's our final product, if you will, once it's been vetted through you all and everybody in the public. We have been graciously included within the NPT's symposium this summer in June. So June 24th is when the final product will be presented. And again, these are those guidelines that you all have been looking for to how to handle our historic and built environment within the FEMA flood areas. And we got some great people and consultants that will be working with us on that. So that's
Do we
what
know, can you unveil who this mysterious consultant is?
Yes. So if anybody attended the Keeping History Above Water conference this past summer, Lisa Craig,
Oh,
who
good.
was basically our
She was the presenter,
champion,
yeah.
yes. Her, along with a gentleman, and I can provide this information so you know their backgrounds, because I think that's important. These aren't just people off the street, they know preservation. The other person is a gentleman named Phil Thomason. He's been doing design guidelines throughout the country for the last 40 years. And mostly in the South. He's done some in the New England area, but mostly in the South.
As
But
far as
Well, we need a
flood
little ooh
concern
la la
and
up here.
stuff is, I've read a lot of it, and I can't remember whether I read it or I heard it, as far as bringing some of the Dutch applications into our discussions.
the Dutch dialogues, I know Charleston, South Carolina has done that.
Yeah, I
they've
know
looked-
that, and
yes.
because I've spent quite a lot of time following it, being that I live on Fayette Street, and don't want to be harborside.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
and their availability and what they've done in 150 years is remarkable. The Dutch.
Well, I will tell you, with this MVP program, the Commonwealth is looking at Nantucket as a driving force, bringing resiliency and preservation together. I was very, blown away at the fact that other MVP communities within the Commonwealth are not including preservation as part of the conversation. So that's a great thing. So.
Super.
Thanks, Holly.
Yes, sir.
Question, Holly. And I'm asking, these last three things you put on the screen, right, that's the first time I've seen them. So in the future, when you're going into the, could you email me, whatever?
She did.
They were emailed to you, John.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
yeah.
You're
Try
welcome.
to keep up on it, yeah. Thank
I
you.
understand. Yes, sir.
And so I just have one thing. I believe you and I already spoke about this, but I think regardless, we should publicly notice.
Yes, absolutely.
Assuming that we're gonna have a quorum
Yes.
at the first meeting.
Yes.
You know, and then moving forward. It's just a safe thing to do.
Yeah.
The consultant understands open meeting law, so she said if the chairs just want to attend, that's great. That would help with the open meeting law process. But if the entire commissions want to come, that's fine. That's not a
I see
problem.
no harm in just noticing it, and however
Yes.
many people show up, we're covered.
Kathy and I will definitely be noticing for the other forums as well to make sure everything's taken care of on that end too.
Okay.
So
Very good. So, thank you, Holly. I don't
welcome.
believe we need to take any action on that.
Nope.
That was just
that's an
informational
FYI.
thing.
And as
Yes.
more information comes out, I will be emailing you. So keep in touch with your email, so you're aware of it, and we'll get that information out to everybody.
Super.
The next.
Thanks much.
The
Thanks,
next
Holly.
thing on this, absolutely. This is good stuff. I've been working on it for quite a while.
Yeah.
The next thing is blank. Is there? Okay. All right, it's a little bit of information. So this was also included in your email, but this is a brief overview. So I've been in discussions with the National Alliance for Preservation Commissioners. They've been around for quite a long time. They do training, and Nantucket, well, we're going to have our own training camp for you all, the Historical Commission, and any other preservation advocacy out there. It's obviously going to be on a first come, first served basis, but it's also going to be opened up to the advisory boards as well. So this camp, just to give you a brief overview, this is going to be scheduled for Preservation Month, National Preservation Month, I should say, which is in May. For May 29th, so the day after the 28th, for that one of those forums, it's going to be the next day. One of the reasons for that is our consultant for the MVP program is also one of the trainers, which is great. Lisa Craig, that's the information I provided to you all there. I apologize. Scroll down. And then our next, I can't get that, but you all saw it. But basically, the biggest thing I want you to all is put this on your calendar. May 28th, we're gonna have camp training. It'll be, or 29th, excuse me, on a Friday. It will be tentatively here downstairs. If not, some other location, which I'm leaving that up to the chair for the NHC to look into. She wants to find another location, which is fine. And if we can't find another location, then it would be here, but I've secured that. And this type of program, just to give you a brief overview of what we're looking at the end of the day, is, I got it here, yep. So the topics are going to include legal, ethical basics, roles of commissioners, a design review, a little charrette to kind of give you a what you guys do on a weekly basis, and how they can give their expertise. Because again, these are professionals that have been doing this for all over the country, and they can give some insight about infill design, standard design, why we are preserving to begin with as an NHL, and then having a building public support. And then the last session is actually on disaster planning and resiliency, which obviously we're going to be working on as well. So just want to let you know that this is something that the Plus department will be paying for. They've are fine with having training, and I'm very pleased that we're bringing it here, because this is much needed. I think it's I hope you all are just excited as I am, because you all can use it. So that's my discussion this evening with you all, and I appreciate your time.
All terrific, Holly. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any questions for Holly?
No, I just think it's great. There isn't, I think the last thing is great. It gives us some more strength when we're trying to preserve areas, which is important.
Absolutely.
Totally agree, Diane. Okay, Holly, thanks so much.
Thank you, Holly.
Thanks, Holly.
For the next coming
Come again soon.
months. Yes, please. You're welcome anytime.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now we're gonna move along to old business, and as I'm sure most of you know, I'm recusing from this, and my friend Diane Coombs is chairing. This is 27 North Liberty Street. So I'm gonna push away from the table.
You ready? I would.
If I may, I believe we said there would be no.
No,
public
I was just going to
input.
say
Yeah,
that, okay?
Yeah,
Is that we have discussed at the last meeting that,
no public input.
no public information, it was all emailed to us so that we have it, and the discussion is going to the commissioners. And that is the extent of
But we're still
what we're
getting
going to do
information.
today. So, I don't know who would like, ready to start?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
These were the emails that I forwarded to you all. I don't know if you wanted to read
Oh,
the
thank you.
record, but-
I would suggest we not read these.
Yeah.
I'm
emails
not
out loud.
going to read them, thank you.
I already read them.
I did too, which is what we
Yeah,
were
we just discussed that.
supposed to do. So,
No, we're gonna review,
are you,
we're gonna review the application.
Are we kicking off the
we're
board?
ready to speak,
I could say a few things for starters.
okay.
Something hit me from this picture. I'm so glad it's in this particular one. So,
The what?
I'm sure you know this, but this particular picture
Yeah.
of 27 North Liberty Street, it struck me how much space is around it and how cramped it is against the lot line right now. This is the way it was meant to be seen, and this is, it's also up 3 steps, so it's sunk into the ground. And I, for one, think that it would do it some good to have it up off the lot line and restored. And I have full faith in Carrie and Luke to do that restoration, so those are my,
You don't have any particular footage, moving it off the line or moving
don't-
it up?
no, I don't have a problem with the application as submitted. I mean, architecturally, are we going to talk about architecture now, like what you're
Well,
actually
this is a
doing?
two-part application, so one part is, I believe, the move, and the other would be the alteration.
Okay, so I'm just
Alteration.
addressing the move.
Okay, we'll come back if you want
the
to do
architecture,
the
please.
architectural business.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Val, what about you?
Actually, the alterations to the house are a concern for me. I know that they were approved before, by our fellow commissioners in 2015, but, I was hoping to ask the applicant to change a couple of things, or a lot of things. I think the rear roof is too high, and, by raising the rear roof, adding dormers, adding a large deck, removal of the interior and exterior of the structure, to allow these modifications, it is more regrettable to me in the preservation of this structure's historic integrity. What percentage of the fabric, when removed, changes its historical significance of the structure is my question. Primarily, the southeast elevation, which faces Lily Pond, is of the most concern. I'd like to see if the applicant would consider downsizing the secondary mass somewhat, just so it's not almost to the ridge of the original house. Perhaps downsize the dormer on that side, or eliminate it completely, and try to reduce the deck somehow, which I know is a challenge because of the topography. But the deck kind of overwhelms the house. Initially, I was concerned with the lift, but having seen this Exhibit A, I don't have that concern anymore. I was going to ask if you would consider a mud block, but in light of some historic documentation of what the house looked like, I won't mention that. I think the side facing the lily pond is the most visible, and so that's what I'm choosing to focus on with my concerns with this renovation. And that's what I have on the house itself.
Okay, and do you have anything that you want to mention now about moving and upping and backing?
Well, the upping I just spoke to with
Yeah,
the concern eradicated by the photo.
right.
With regard to the move, I do have some comments on that, but I'd like to consider that as maybe even a secondary application.
Okay. Alrighty. Steve, you next.
Sure. So, it's a little disjointed for me. We typically look at the drawings with the applicant and go through a process similar to that. I'm not quite sure why we're not doing that. So I'm gonna start that way. Before I do, I wanna make a note, the applicant had submitted information referencing recently issued minutes from Tuesday, January 21st. And I just wanna clarify for the record that those are draft minutes. That I have not had the opportunity to review any minutes on this hearing, that I will be reviewing those minutes. I will likely be submitting revisions, and later in this meeting, I will be requesting that we hold those minutes for review and not vote to approve them this evening, so just so people are aware of that. With respect to moving, I'm not going to speak on that tonight, or any of the related concepts, or the historic structure regulations for the National Historic Registry listing, or the typical Nantucket HDC practices. I'm also not going to speak on the historic character of the neighborhood or related matters. I will speak on the addition and massing. Before that, I have a question for the opponent's attorney, if I may. It'll be through the chair, and a comment. The request is that, and I will make this a motion if necessary, that we get additional information for review at the next meeting, which is a plan view of the immediate area of the street, marked up to indicate the date of construction of each home, and any additions now present, whether any of those structures was moved to, within, or off of any of those lots, and if so, the respective dates. I would want this plan submitted and the related information submitted prior to the next review, and it would be due, honored by that meeting's normal submission deadline.
I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
Are you talking about every single house on North Liberty Street?
No, just the immediate area, actually,
okay.
and thank you for clarifying. I think the information that was presented in the applicant's elevation is a good starting point. However, I would, the colored illustration, I would like to include the land bank property there for context, which was adjacent and adjoining. I think that that's relevant. And I'll just very briefly clarify the reasoning of this is, I have not decided on the move. I don't believe I have enough information to do that, and that's information I require personally in order to make that determination. So I would ask, and this will be available in the minutes, and I can provide the list through Terry, or you can watch the video. So that's the request. The question is, if I may, through you, Madam Chair, I'd like to get some clarification on raising the building. I thought I had heard at one of the hearings that the opponents were not adverse to that, or that there was a certain height that was a limit. So if that was the case, if I could get some clarification, I would appreciate that.
I don't believe that we had a limit to the height. I believe that the number of 21 inches to raise it was proposed.
By the applicant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just curious, there was some discussion of height amongst the opponents, and I was just curious if you could clarify the consensus opinion on that. Again, I'm just trying to get some information to formulate my further
No, I
thoughts.
think
Just to answer your question, first, that picture isn't the right, isn't this structure.
Okay.
But
We're not speaking.
that's across the street. So when we're talking about whether it can go up or down, I'm not speaking in reference to this photograph, because this photograph that you're talking about is not the right building.
Thank you for the
But-
clarification.
But in terms of 27 North Liberty Street?
Yeah.
The actual Seth Ray Cooper shop, the opponents have no opposition to a raise up as recommended originally by the historic, is it Structures Advisory Board?
HSAB.
Which I think was not as much as the applicant was requesting, which I believe was like 24 inches.
Yeah.
But was closer to 18 inches. I'd have to go through and look. If you have those old HSAB minutes, though, that's what we were supporting.
Okay, thank you very much, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
So that was the question, Madam Chair. The comment is, I just want to comment on late received submissions, because I think it's important for our process both here today and going forward. The public hearing portion of the hearing was, to my mind, closed, and in fact, that was my motion. But we did receive comments after the deadline. And for various reasons, it should be obvious to everyone, I think it's unfair to the applicant and the opponents to receive and evaluate those comments, or to continue to receive or evaluate comments. So I would just suggest that that has to stop. So my comments on the addition are primarily, I agree with the comments that Commissioner Oliver made. And I would more strongly support this concept that looking at your page A21, the southeast elevation proposed, that the massing of the addition needs to be more subordinate. It needs to not affect the historical context or the setting, really the building, the historic building's character. And I think that this begins, just due to the size, begins to kind of redefine the historic structure. And I think that that size is a problem with respect to not redefining the historic structure. I do not have a concern with respect to the alteration of the chimney and the addition of the new chimney, which, by the way, I think is a nice touch. Those comments carry over to your northwest elevation and your northeast elevation. And I will hold comments with respect to height, which I'll comment on with my comments on moving in the next hearing, subject to receipt of that information. If you don't get it together, then I'll just ask again and we'll get it for the following one. So just so you're aware, I don't know what your timelines are. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right. John?
Yes, I've read everything that's been available to read, up to date. Here it is right here. And there's 12 houses in the immediate area to 27 North Liberty. Only one house out of those 12 has its own separate streetscape, and that's 27. And history put it there. You know, not man's knowledge, just somebody wanted to build a house years ago, and that's where they built. They put their own setback and everything. I appreciate the question by the other board members. At this time, I'm gonna have to say that I have no comment right now. I've got more information supposed to be coming in, I believe, after tonight. And I wanna reread it all and get it all down pat and make sure things are copacetic for the neighborhood. So I'm gonna hold off comments by me right at this time until I've seen everything.
Wait, John, can you just say it a little tiny bit louder so it picks up? What is your last statement? You're going to hold on to your remarks?
If I have any remarks, I'll carry them over from this to then, to the next meeting.
Okay,
Thank you.
very good.
Excuse me, I did get read in one of the things, I want to say that. There was a disparaging remark about the commission. And it was, what's the word, denigrating to the commission. It was a notice of someone, a neighbor, that they wrote in it the fact that if this structure is not denied at the end of the HBC, and this is our, what do you want to use the word? Let me think a minute, get old, you know. It was a disparaging remark that I think possibly if it was read the way I read it or anybody else that sees it and reads it, that it was damaging towards myself and other commission members in my mind that I think we're doing a hell of a good job here holding this island together, basically architecturally. So
We work at it.
that statement bothered me very bad. And so they know, whoever wrote it, they know they wrote it. So I don't use names. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Johnny.
I'm not biased.
My,
I
Would
want to
you-
address something else too.
you want to address it before I speak?
Are we going back
I
to
can
the,
go wait.
I only commented on the move.
Yep.
Can I comment on the architecture?
Yes?
I agree with what's been said about the gable going towards the lily pond. I think it's too high and it takes away from the original old structure. And I also feel that building out towards the right, which I mean east, the shed roof coming off the side there, I know it's set back, but I think it's dominating the old structure. So if that could be pared down, so it doesn't, we still see the original structure somehow. And I appreciate the two chimneys, and I don't mind the owl, the old, people as things sort of developed and they put on kitchens in the back, a lot of them did have those old owl chimneys, so I'm not opposed to having that. I don't even know, does it have one now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does, so I'm not opposed,
Existing on the secondary mass, yeah.
but I know some people don't feel they're a little,
Good.
I like them. Thank
So-
you, Diane.
You're welcome. You want to speak and then I will.
Well, I now am a little bit confused if we are giving information that somebody needs to ascertain whether it's real or it's not. I was believing this was the house. It certainly looks like the house.
They could have been all built at the same time.
Well,
They could have been part of a.
I'm gonna reserve my comment then about the lift or perhaps considering a mud block or something until we find that out.
I think that's a very good idea.
Let's look at clarification.
I would too like to have a clarification. I don't know what year that was done, but I know at some time next to that house was the maple tree, which shows no greenery at all. But my view on the moving of the house has been well established. I don't need to go into that. I would like to have, I don't see it here, but I may have not just reached the right page. I would like to have it included as what the square footage of the original house is and what the square footage of the addition is proposed at.
Well, they do have existing ground cover 982
Right,
and proposed new ground cover adding 140 for a total of 1122.
they're saying that the new addition is only 140 square feet.
That's right.
I believe that's on the second floor, the first floor, it's on the application.
It's the
The
bump.
two numbers.
It's just the bump.
Yeah, so I'll look at the application and get it, that makes a difference. I agree with what has been mentioned, already about what shouldn't be there. I think the little chimney is good, I'm not sure that, I want to go again, I don't know. it seems on this, which is what the southeast elevation, is very busy. And it seems to me, as I remembered, it wasn't so busy. And
It's right here.
yeah, it's pretty simple. The chimneys are simple. The projection from the second little chimney out is very simple. And
That's the same, I think. It's
Same
just
size.
They added a window.
so that's just a discussion of now. I think it would be very interesting, and I would like to request that the things that Steve Welch has requested be given to us so we can compare and see what it looks like. I'm sure that when you put it together, I think this drawing is good, but I'd like to see more, which it's so important because we're down to so few buildings that haven't been moved, stripped, and all the rest of it, that we would really feel very concerned about what we're doing and that we're doing it right and that you're doing it right, because you want to be proud of what you have done and not have people say, oh, look at what that, awful thing is. They want to say, wow, that really fits in nicely. And I think that's important for both the applicant and the commission. So what we have asked is another side of looking at this very clearly so we all know exactly what it is we're agreeing to. We would like to know, I believe, what you are proposing, if moved, what you would be proposing in between 25 and 27 in that space. What you would propose to do with the barn. Would it stay? Would it move? Would it go away altogether? I think that's important for us to make a good decision on what there is.
I have something to say to that. We are just reviewing one application. They've sort of given us an outline of what they intend to do, but let's remember, every single application has to come to this board. So I don't personally think that what's happening in the future over here necessarily impacts our decision on this particular project. It's just how I feel. And I do have a question for somebody who's an expert with regard to this moving business. 15 feet of this house is still in its original location. 6 is moving out. Is that not still the same location? I can't answer that myself. I'm just curious.
May I comment, Madam Chair?
Yes, you may.
So I think if I can kind of back into Val's comments, I have a little different perspective. I think with respect to moving and the percentages, I'm not suggesting that's not valid. I'm personally more concerned with, I think the weight of that reflects on what else has happened on the street. And I personally don't know that yet. And when I get the information we've all now requested, I think that will help. Mm-hmm. And that will provide context whether 6 feet and 75% of the structure is still within the same footprint, it makes a difference or not. So I would just suggest that maybe we would review that in the context of additional information. With respect to the overall, Diane, you had commented that we would like to have some more information on the neighboring property, and Val, you said that we really need to comment. We need to be commenting on the application in front of us, and noting we do have control over future applications. I'm kind of splitting that baby, if you'll allow me to. I think the applicant has submitted contextual information with concepts for future work on the neighboring lots, and I do believe it's important and relevant information, and it's kind of refreshingly so that we're not looking at this as an incrementalist type of an approach where we get an application and we don't really know what's going on. So I would suggest that what we do is at the next hearing, when they present their, any revisions they make, and we discuss moving, we take up the visual elements of what they've proposed as concepts. We're not getting into actual applications of neighboring lots on 29, but it gives us an opportunity to be refreshed on that.
Well, part of the thing that the HDC is commissioned to follow is the streetscape.
Yes.
And to me, having some idea of whether they planned a 2.5-story house or 1-story bungalow would have something to do with the streetscape.
But that's a separate application.
But it is, but it's one of the things that we're supposed to consider when we look at a new house, is how it, I think,
Right.
it is that we see how it fits in to the neighborhood. That's-
And so what I would suggest to both of those is that we review what was previously provided with respect to what would be on 29 and other changes on the street in the form that it was previously presented, just as a refresher. We're not asking them to turn in another separate application
or
at this
what-
time.
Or a complete design. All
Yeah.
it is what they have in mind, which
Yes.
is not asking a lot. It's trying to follow what the streetscape is, because there seems to be a very important streetscape. It's been called all sorts of things back to Little Egypt and all the stuff. So let's work with what we've got and look at it. It's important to the result.
For what it's worth, I agree. May I make a motion?
Yeah,
I think everyone spoke. I would make a motion to hold for revision, subject to commissioner comments, and for the additional information we requested, and to include clarification of the image, that the facts are disputed. I do want to note that that's my motion, but I'm going to make a comment before someone either seconds it or not. I want to know, because we have 50 of these a night typically, and so on and so forth. We do not have a historic researcher on hand, so if the imagery is disputed, I think we'll take it at face value. It would be my suggestion. The credibility of an applicant, once soured, is not easily diluted. I'm sure the applicants are aware of that, and if they need to dispute the facts at some other venue, they can be disputed in some other venue. But I would like to have the applicant, the image that was provided showing the height, just give us an indication of, in writing, of where that came from, what the source was, because I think that is relevant information. So just if I make that clarification.
yes, so is that a motion?
That was the motion with my comments.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor. May I have all people in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? It is a full board. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
If you have any questions, statements, or anything else, would you please email them so we get them and can review them, and that would be good. I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a dead dot. This is a lot of.
I know. I've fallen off my bed every day,
Trying to carry it.
trying to keep it from falling off so I can read it yet again. I've got to get the emails that came because my iPad is gone, and I had to take it to Computer Solution.
Hi, Lisa.
Thank you.
How are
And they
you?
haven't even looked at it.
I thought you were, maybe you were
Oh,
on your
Yeah. I
Florida,
don't know whether to buy another
No,
one.
I might
don't
be
know
putting
what
it off for a
to
little
buy.
bit, cause your puppy's
Sometimes
driving you.
now they're so cheap.
Well, I've got the puppy organized, but,
If you can get even a,
oh, the
like a
puppy. I think I'm
refurbished
gonna
one
put
on
it off
Amazon,
a week.
than it is to try to get it
132,
fixed.
128
Yeah,
GB,
so
shouldn't it be
did I.
the higher the
It is
GB,
pretty
the
cute.
better?
It's very cute.
if
I
you
heard you
spend
had to
any
leave early
intensive
though,
stuff
because
on
you
it,
had to go
I do
maintain your
everything on it.
puppy.
Even
Yeah,
64 is
well,
fine.
but now I'm slowly organizing.
Because I do all my banking, all my,
Yeah, it's the
Quick
process, it's the process.
Does anybody know where TJ is?
So as long as it doesn't have
It's
a
on vacation.
old
Oh, is that what's
processor,
Cause he
Yeah.
wasn't here
If
last
it's like
week.
within the last
Yeah.
few,
Yeah.
the last couple of years, you're fine.
And then if I got a new one, then what do I do? Then somebody comes and takes all the information off the old one?
That you would have to, if you can back it up to the cloud, is it on a phone account?
So we only have 3 people.
Is it connected to your phone?
No, it's connected to the Wi-Fi.
Lisa, would
Back
you
it up
like to
a
start?
little phone
Yeah,
call.
Yeah.
I just wanna make sure everybody got,
All right.
Val,
Check out the-
John, Abby, you got the report, correct?
We did, but there was some, I didn't know exactly what I was looking at,
Do you want me to go over it?
not necessarily. Some of these addresses just say Milk Street, it doesn't refer to a specific site.
Oh, I can show you which ones it is. It's
So
pretty easy
that-
to pick out.
I also wanna just point out that there were the drawings in the file from 55, and I have the photos too that show the more new construction. We submitted the architectural drawings from the 50s.
Yeah, by Kenneth Dupre.
Yeah, exactly.
Cause I gave you, at the end of it, there is a summary. We only have 3 members on this. I see John, Val, and Abby. I can run over the summary really quickly, Val, so you don't have to go through it again. There've been several different structures in the location of the current cottage. Val, are you with me?
I'm listening.
Okay. On 1904 Sandbarn map, there is a really small shed sort of forward of where the current one is in the southerly rear area. The shed is still noted on the 1909 Sandbarn maps. On the 1923 Sandbarn map, the shed is no longer present and a new larger, almost square structure is listed there, right on the rear and the easterly lot lines. It says Appleton's Garage and Cars, with a further note that the structure is cinder block with concrete floors. On the 1949 Sanborn map, the previous structure shown in the 1923 is gone, and this much larger structure is in the same general location, different roof, different everything. Along the rear and side lot lines again, and note continues to state that the structure is cinder block with concrete floors marked with an A, which means ancillary, and there's no chimney. The 1938 aerial photograph in the town of Nantucket records clearly shows the larger structure that is on the 1949 Sanborn map. This structure is validated by the assessor's records, and you have the arrow, she's got it in her,
It's in the packet.
it's in the
but,
packet. You
You're
have
not
the-
looking at the packet, so I'm just.
Thank you.
The structure is validated by the assessor's records. The 1957 aerial photograph clearly shows the current structure with that footprint. This is validated when I went through the assessor's records because they're attached to the rear. As you go through the assessor's records, you can see where the shed disappeared, the smaller building was there, it left, the larger building was there, and then the alterations to the 1957 aerial structure were also called out as you went through the assessor's records. So the fact that the historic survey form says that this particular structure dates to 1915 is absolutely incorrect. It was constructed after 1949, but before 1957. The assessor's records indicate that the first time the ancillary large structure was removed in the cottage place there is in 1955, because the assessment changed. The current cottage, in addition, this is what the records show.
Yeah, this is dated, the drawings are dated 1956.
Yeah, and so it was 1955, according to the assessor's records. The current cottage, in addition, appeared to be on site by 1960. So the current structure actually evolved, because the assessment changed when they converted the addition to the east into interior space. It looked, when you look inside it, it looks like it was an open garage, then it was a porch. It has some odd elements which are in the pictures that Diane has. So that was converted and made into interior space with a change in grade that walks up into the main part of the house. The 1989 survey says it was contributing, but it was in error, because at the time of the 1989 survey, the structure had been only there 30 years. The structure's
I have a question about that.
Yep,
They make anything contributing that's over a certain age?
50 for those 1989 surveys.
Because I've noticed quite a few of the Macri.
Yeah, not quite accurate,
right.
yeah. So it wasn't contributing anyway, because she was going off the basis that she thought that the structure was there in 1914, which it was not. So in conclusion, the existing structure is not a 1915 historic structure. Any older wood in the cottage looks like it was repurposed. And if you look at the pictures, which was quite interesting, when I did a detailed survey of the ground up there, one of the pictures shows you the concrete wall, the block wall. There's still a portion of it back in the left corner as you're standing in the street. And part of the sill is still back there. So we've pretty much got it nailed down as to when it was there and when it was altered, because the assessment changed radically in 1960 when they enclosed that piece of the garage there.
Right. And I do wanna point out that there are, and I can give you these, the drawings the pictures that I took that show the cinder block foundation, the new framing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's outfitted on.
It's a shame it's so charming looking.
It is, but it's not historic, so we go there.
Okay, so who do we have, who's on the board? Val?
John, Val,
Are you
and
on?
you.
Just the three of you.
Not Diane.
Not Diane.
No.
Val, you
TJ was the other person.
ready to make some comments, or John?
Oh, sorry.
It's a shame, cause it does contribute to that streetscape.
60 feet off the road, though. It's
Doesn't
cute.
matter.
It is cute.
Is there any takers for it?
There's somebody that's emailed me 3 times, and I just emailed them today and said, I don't have HCC approval to remove it yet.
I mean, cause he was a significant person to Nantucket as well. He wrote a bunch of books on Nantucket.
The architectural
Architectural historian. Yeah,
Who was it?
Kenneth Dupre.
Oh. I have some of his books.
I'm not sure how much he had to do, given the title search, how much he had to do with the structure originally coming, going, and then another one coming and then changing.
I'd be okay with it moving somewhere.
Taking off that side garage addition, because we'll never get it out of there with that
But
side
not
piece.
demoed.
Okay, thank you, Val. John, what do you think?
It's easy to get it out of there.
Better off to move it than to destroy it.
Right.
That's my comment.
I'm sorry, John, I didn't hear what you said.
Better to move it than destroy
I
it.
said, in this case, it's better to move it if possible than to destroy.
Well, I have somebody that's
Another
interested, so I can let.
Old structure in Nantucket, yeah. It's got to come to a halt somewhere now.
And they
There's way
left it.
too many
Yeah.
history, too much history. Once it's gone, it's gone.
Can we get rid of that side piece? It's not moving.
The thing
one
that
side
used to
piece.
be the
One at a
garage.
time, please, all right?
I'm sorry.
Don't do that, Linda, okay?
Okay, so,
Yeah, the side piece I'm okay with going.
all right, John, what do you wanna save it, move off, no demo?
I have no problem with moving the building
Okay,
and moving to another lot, that's fine.
Okay,
You're not destroying it.
Sitting on a sill,
do I hear a motion then?
that'd be a problem.
Well, I'll have to deal with it.
'Cause if it's not another time,
Motion to approve a move off,
that couldn't have been-
That would be the motion.
minus the former garage,
Minus the
Easterly
the
piece.
wing.
The wing.
Can you repeat the motion, please?
I would motion to move off minus the garage, the former garage wing that got turned into
The
a
oldest
shed
piece.
house.
It's
Patio.
this part, John, this side over here, the little one-story section.
Thank you.
All in favor of Val's motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. It's a move forward. Okay. I gotta sit for this next one. Depends where the person wants to go with it.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
They want to try one of these, they're very mild.
What are they?
It's an area over there.
Kathy needs them.
Yeah, I brought it.
Thank you.
I need something sweet.
It is.
Sweet?
On Amazon.
Barbecue. Amazon?
Here's,
With protein.
They're really good.
Abby? Fruit snacks?
Yeah, I'd love some of those. What are those?
Fruit snacks or mini eggs?
Okay. Does taste like a barbecue.
Good.
Moving right along.
Oh. 40 Shakamo?
Yeah, it's new business.
Well, Diane, you must share this.
New business.
Diane?
Yep, I'm right
Well,
here.
you like the queen on this side, Abby. Nobody wants to sit next to you. Oh.
Are you-
Look at the brave queens on.
Are you ready?
I am ready.
Alrighty.
next door.
Well, hopefully there were some submitted.
Yeah.
So this is a building that was built in, oh my goodness, I think it was Belanger Paul Gatone, I know did it, so it's gotta have been in the 90s, right? I know, maybe I'm dating myself. 2005 or something.
Wow.
So the original house, used to belong to Jean McCausland, and then this is a building that was built closer to Chocamo Road.
This is her property.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this building is actually a newer structure than the one that's down, at the water. It was built, I think, maybe 10 years ago. So we're renovating it. One of the things that you'll see in the picture is that there's a lot of stone around the foundation, and the grade has been built up quite a bit around the foundation, and there's a unusual shingle flare onto the stone foundation. So one of the things we're actually doing is bringing the grade back down around the entire building, because that grade was brought up sort of artificially around the structure, and getting rid of the shingle flare and the stone retaining walls on the sides and just making those look like regular sheds. Do you guys have the photos? So this is kind of what it looks like now. It has all that. Yeah, I mean.
Why would they do that? Why would they put in,
I don't know. I mean, the way it's built, you can pull it off. The veneer, was built in such a way that the veneer can be removed and you can just shingle straight down and lower the grade. Which is what we'd like to do.
Where are those air conditioners? I didn't.
but lowering the grade, does it make it taller?
Well, the roof isn't moving. It brings the ground plane lower, but it's not too tall. The massing of the building doesn't really change, other than the fact that we're lowering the grade on the sides and we're adding the little single-story porch and vestibule. The rest of the changes are just fenestration changes. I think the goal is to try to make it look less like a barn or like a ship's building and more like a house. Because right now it sort of reads as a utility barn structure.
Well, they probably did that to get the cupola approved.
Maybe.
And those double wings.
I think the visibility is pretty limited. I mean, if you look at the location of it, it's, the back of it probably might be visible, but through vegetation to Shakamo Road. The front is facing into the property, which is the north. So the south might be the visibility. But again, they're gonna wanna keep it fairly well screened to Shakamo Road, very well screened.
I don't really mind the stone foundation on the wings. I think it sort of grounds it. Once you've got all this stone around the front door, it kind of looks odd to have the shingles.
I think the alternative would be to remove the stone around the front door. If that's the concern. They wanna bring the grade down, and they don't wanna have they don't want the shingle flare, and they don't want as much stone on the building. We thought that the stone facade was, again, since it's facing into the property, was still a nice detail.
Yeah, I think it's
And
nice.
keeping the shingle flare at the top of that, you know, made that center read differently than the two wings, and kinda gave it a little bit more focus.
Yeah, it looks like it doesn't look that much like Nantucket. It looks something from Pennsylvania.
Well, and the new owner doesn't particularly love a lot of heavy stone. So, trying to reduce that.
I did not get out to see this. So can we see it from the road? Did anybody go? If you can see it from the road, I think I'd prefer the connector piece to just be an open porch. But if we can't,
I don't think you're gonna, I mean, I'd take the approval that way, and then maybe have you guys go back and look, because again, I think it is fairly close to the road, but the goal is is to privatize it from the road, just because nobody wants to see cars going past them. So I can't answer you. I think there's a fair amount of large vegetation there at the moment.
So can I get clarity on that, Lisa? I'm sorry, through you, Madam Chair. Is the first floor that's being changed, not with respect to the new screen porch, but the grade change, is any of that visible from Shakimo Road?
I would say, if anything, the only elevation that would be visible, if it is at all, would be the south.
Okay, thank you.
Not the north, because
Can I-
if you look at the site plan, the north faces into the site.
would be the
So-
south and the west.
Yeah. South and the west would be the only potential visibility points.
South and the west. Let me see that.
So the west, you're looking at the little screen porch, and then the south is, you know, the existing, basically, we're, you know, lowering the grade so that you can have a completely shingled facade.
And you're gonna get rid of all that stone work,
Yeah,
and you're gonna make it smooth down, not with the curve,
the only curve and the only stone are staying on the north,
okay?
on the front.
What about, I don't see them, we got covered for the AC units,
Those are gonna go away because they're gonna go to Geo.
okay?
I think my only concern is that connector. It just makes this look really, really long, and sort of the massing is a little bit atypical. But if we can't see it, then I suppose it's okay.
I mean, if you wanna,
Is,
what I,
is
what
the
I,
south,
So can I, before we negotiate, can we, Madam Chair, can we each comment?
yeah.
Okay,
we
so I'm
will-
just gonna jump in then. I think on the north elevation, I agree with Commissioner Oliver. And both with respect to the sense of elongation and also the fact that it does not seem to really be the same design vocabulary as the existing structure. So I think some modifications need to be made there. I think one of them would be the proportion of the screen openings. That's a secondary concern. I think the primary concern is that there be a common vernacular between the two. I think the proportion of the screens is kind of being a little off, forgive me, is on your west elevation. I think that the changes you propose to the grade, in particular on the south elevation, are beneficial, and on the west elevation, on the south elevation, the change from stone to shingle, I believe, is beneficial. And on the west elevation, I think the grade change is, and the,
Yeah.
This elevation,
is good. Also,
this elevation.
yeah.
Yeah,
can I ask you one question on that?
Yeah.
Are you thinking that the screen porch, rather than being a hip, would be better as a gable? I mean, I was keeping it a hip to keep it lower. Because I almost want it to look like a little pavilion that sort of set off into landscape rather than have a gable. Is that the vernacular you're referring to?
I think so, but also like, so your frieze, your cornice,
Well,
there's a really
I know, because
different,
that's so heavy, and
I know.
we're not trying to replicate the heaviness of the main part of the building.
but I would suggest that, again, not designing, because you're obviously brilliant at that, is, there needs to be at least an echo. And right now, there really isn't an echo of those design features. So it appears almost to me like you could flip this page, and if you were to look at this and then think what the house is gonna look like, there's no commonality. So it doesn't have, I'm not suggesting that you replicate the exact features, but I do think there needs to be an echo of the design elements. If it's gonna be visible. If it's not gonna be visible, then we'll know that out of view and we don't even need to be talking about it.
Alrighty. Abby,
I think that this is a super hard renovation to add on to this house.
It
These
is
low
hard.
wings, I mean, it's a real puzzle,
Yeah.
and I don't have an offering for you, other than what my fellow board members said to somehow have it relate back to that main mass. The only other thing I can think of, but I'm sure you want to connect, would be to make it an open breezeway and then have your pavilion on the right.
That's
but-
what I said.
I'm sorry, you were, good idea.
she was right.
Good save.
Anyway, so, sorry, Lisa, I don't.
No, that's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, well, we have to hear from John and Diane.
Val, you
I'm done.
done. And John?
Yes, on this, here, on the window schedule, okay? Now, there are some of those 4 lights there.
Yeah.
Now, my question is this one, 2 of these, this is, oh, there's many of them, I just,
Yeah, they're awnings, we're matching 2 existing awning windows.
excuse me,
Yeah.
there are awnings here.
John, are you on the west elevation? Are you talking about the west?
I'm talking about,
Do you know
No, just-
which side they relate to?
Here, John? These on the west,
yes, okay, I get you.
down below.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What elevation is
it's
it?
west and east.
North elevation's got one, right now,
That one exists. I
we got
believe.
4, 5, not these, 2, 4, 6, 8, including the cupola, 9, 10, 16 windows. I only question is, these weren't always there. These have been changed around over the years. And I would have to ask the question of visibility for road and find out how the commission, maybe it's just me, how they got 14.
John's,
And they're adding more.
no, so the ones in the north exist, the cupola exists. What we're adding is on the west, we're adding 2 on the west, so we're taking 2 single windows and putting them together with 2 more.
The west elevation, you're putting 4 of them in there.
No, 2 exist already though.
Here.
Look to where Stevens,
Okay.
so we're just matching them, and that's the same, similar on the east where we're matching, adding 2, then we're adding another, but they're all there.
This is existing.
Okay, we,
Apparently, when I'm not here, things go slide right through.
I'll have to see if you signed the original
Thank you.
approval.
Yeah,
Signed it.
I was gonna ask you to pull it.
I will.
That'd be interesting.
do we want to have a viewing before we make a determination, or are we not to make a determination?
Well, we were on a view, but none of us got there.
I mean,
how tall is this? This can't be more than 16
yeah,
feet.
it's probably 16 feet. I mean, I guess what I would be interested in, if you guys are amenable to it, is to approve the connector without screens with the change to the west elevations to the screens, because I agree that they should be 3 equal screens,
Okay.
I think is what you're saying, Stephen, on the west? For some reason, the one in the center
I
is,
think more is better. It's just they're very broad, I think.
The top is 12.5 feet,
So they're
to the
north.
top of the peak.
That's not bad.
so 4 panels. But if you wanna keep the connector open at this point and then do a viewing, I'm certainly fine with that, if that's,
Why didn't I entertain a motion if somebody's got one?
I would motion for a second viewing. I apologize, I didn't get to it, but
You want to do a viewing before we do,
I mean, otherwise I would request minor revisions, so it's up to, if you don't think it's viewable, then I would do a viewing, and that's gonna be to the applicant's benefit, because it's not viewable, it's not our purview.
oh, so your revisions would go beyond making the, connector, screen.
I think if that's visible, then there needs to be a likeness, and I think Val's comment with respect to the, length, and I think that more would need to be done if it's viewable. If it's the roof line the roof that's visible, then I'm not gonna get bogged down in this.
so
I think a viewing may be beneficial based on your comments.
Okay.
can I have a motion for a view?
Motion to hold for a review.
So
Thank
it'll
you.
be next week, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
okay.
thank you.
Do you know,
Huh?
her house, McLaughlin's house the original house was designed by
I don't know.
George W. Brewster from Boston.
Oh, it's very cool.
Yes, it was, except it leaked like a sieve.
Yeah, those windows, the big.
Well, one of
metal
those
doors.
W's is for water.
I
Waterworks.
worked for her.
George
and
Waterworks. Thank
And I
you.
cooked for him.
Thanks, Lisa.
I know. I
Okay, well, that's
ate earlier.
You speak to her. You got a long night.
Taco Tuesday.
I know. Didn't say that. What are these?
It's sugar, you might need it.
I just had some protein.
Alrighty, so what is, where's Beverly Ford?
It's actually not him.
It is Chris's.
Loftus, and it's my plan again that he's using without my permission, so I'm gonna step over here.
No, this one's not your,
Actually, can I have one of those, Stephen?
Pardon me?
this is not your
Give my
plan.
deadline to you?
No,
Right, but this is not your plan. This was already approved. We sent the plans up to Huntington or some modular that he works with. A Dreamline? I think it's Dreamline. He sent them up there and they couldn't do the dimensions that he had, so we had to narrow it and enlarge it. So it got longer by 6 feet, narrower by 2.5 feet. It's already approved on that lot.
What's already approved?
This house is already approved, but the modular couldn't do the design that we sent it up, so it had to get a little bit longer and a little bit narrower.
how long is it?
40 by 28, I think now.
Okay, so you have it down as a new application, but
It
it's
is,
really more or less.
Because we already got it
kind
approved a while ago.
Mr. Chair, point of clarification.
Yes,
So this was a stick built, which was approved, and then he
Yeah.
put in for a
Modular.
I see.
modular, which is 80 square feet larger, so
So we
It's a
couldn't-
huge
there's
house.
just a difference.
It's there with all the other big duplex, is it a
it's-
duplex? It's a duplex. It's there with all the other Mondo duplexes on Gregland out at Glowackyville, former Glowackyville.
Okay,
Richmond.
but Stephen, you wanna continue?
Yeah, I
on
think
that-
it's
on that theme?
I think a 6-bay, without a covered porch, without ancillary type, additive massing on the sides. It's 3 feet shy of the maximum height of 30 feet. And, I think it needs some work. With respect to the north elevation, which addresses the street, with respect to the east elevation, I think
Can I just
similarly.
clarify something too?
Yeah.
I believe you just said it's 3 feet shy.
I meant to
3
say 3
inches.
inches, I
Yes,
apologize.
3 inches.
I was going, wait, what?
Yeah,
It's
3 inches.
29 feet 9,
Yeah.
so yeah,
Not
3
unusual.
inches shy of 30 feet.
Thank
Okay,
you,
go on,
Mr.
I'm sorry.
Chairman. I think if the concerns are shared by the commission and they're addressed on the northern elevation, they're gonna make positive changes to the other elevations that are necessary.
The north is the one that's the 6 bay.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, it's,
Okay, thank you, Stephen. Diane?
Yes, I agree, it is a large house in an area, and it is almost the size of some of the multifamily houses that are in there. And if this is supposed to be a single house, then it,
can I, point of order, you actually have a different set of drawings. This is what I'm.
Really?
He put
Well,
the
That might
original
change your
approval.
perspective on it.
it's got too freaking many windows.
I'm not gonna speak for you, but I thought you might wanna see what you're
That's
looking
not
at.
what I got here.
You're more than welcome to use my copy.
Thank
Oh,
you.
this one
He put
says-
the previous
this says
approval, I think, is what
duplex.
Diane had, Steve.
Yeah, that's okay, I just wanted to make sure she's looking at the actual application.
It's got,
You can't, it's not supposed to look like a
Single family home.
right, it's supposed
This
to look
is
like a single family
accurate.
house, and this looks
Can I
like
see
a
that, Kevin?
city of Boston apartment, I'm sorry.
This is
It's-
what Diane was looking at.
Oh, way different. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
That's on North Liberty Street.
Oh, please.
So now that you have the real drawings, Diane, do you wanna continue?
Yes, but I want to continue with what I was saying. It is too many windows. There has to be some differential between apartment number 1 and apartment number 2. Because they've given you the impression that it's a single-family house. And it isn't. I thought in that particular area, that Beverly Court, it was supposed to be single-family houses, as I remember, when we were doing the area, but I think it's too big. It needs to have less windows, it needs to have more variation, it needs to have a porch or a roof or something that breaks it up.
Actually, Kathy, can I see that previous?
Perhaps remove the 2 windows over the front door and put a single one. I don't know how up,
You can't, because of the
because of the
modular.
wall
Yeah, because of the modular.
inside, but that doesn't mean that we have to live with his design if it's inappropriate for the area.
Thank you. Oh, and you have more, Diane?
No, that's,
Okay.
You get the
I can
tone.
come back to it if you like. Abby, are you ready?
Well,
You wanna
I just,
digest a little bit?
well, it's just, no, I agree with what's been said, and I think if it's, I'm looking at the old one, the previous, and it's much more, appropriate.
It's amazing what the difference in however more feet long this elevation is, what a difference it makes.
Well, that one's
the
40,
perception.
just,
It's 40, yeah.
40.
It
And
does,
this
but
one's
the modular company
34.
apparently
So
won't
it's
do it.
6 feet difference. I'm just making an observation.
I said the same
That
thing.
the whole scale of the thing seems to change with that additional 6 feet.
and I agree with Stephen that if, we've got to break up the massing to disguise, like, 6 bay. I don't think there are any 6 bays
It's very atypical.
in a
Very
residential
Well,
area.
the big 6 apartment buildings, they all have it.
yeah,
Pretty
but
much
those
like
are
the
up
apartment
in
buildings.
another area, which
Same road.
Beverly Court,
Yep. This was Glowacki, this is Greg Glowacki's.
I know
You
where
know,
it
down at
is.
the end of Gregland, sorta.
Okay. Anything else? Yeah, that, I don't think that line means anything. They just added on to it to make it taller.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think we need some revisions.
Okay. John,
No comment.
no comment.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I'm feeling the same way as my fellow board member said.
Too
I'd
long?
like to see, the length is, yeah, I think that's,
6 feet.
I have the benefit now of seeing this previous thing, and the 6 feet is very significant in terms of the perception of this building. And also, the 2 windows over the front, I could think can be dealt with in other ways, so it doesn't give the impression of a 6 bay.
They can split up.
Yeah, there's solutions. Should we hold this for some revisions?
Yeah, absolutely. Motion to hold for revisions.
Very good. All those in favor of Abby's motion?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Thank you, Linda.
Okey dokey, this
All
was
right.
April
Robbie, you're up.
39.9.
Pretty much what I told them.
Yeah, sometimes they should listen.
Yes, they should.
Okay.
See, green line.
That was my plan. That's what we had in our plan.
So, we are now, at least for a while, a regular board. Which means the regular members will be voting on this in the next several applications.
Welcome.
Hi.
Okay. Oh,
Scarlett
yeah,
O'Hara?
Scarlett O'Hara.
My niece.
Not real.
Yeah.
Seriously, her name?
Scarlett. Yeah.
Is this the building that was on fire?
Yeah. So this is a replacement for the building at 43 Nobody Farm Road that burned down. It's the exact same foundation, same materials. The only difference that you'll find in your plan from the existing is the ridges are lower and the doors are smaller.
The ridges are lower and the doors are smaller. That's music to our ears.
It was set up as a boat building
Okay.
building before, and it had much larger garage doors, and therefore we brought the ridge down to accommodate using the truss construction and
Wow,
making it more
The
efficient.
highest elevation is, the highest point is 23, less than 23 and a half feet high.
Yep.
Okay? Looks like you got white sidewall shingles and some kind of shingle on it.
It's a black
dual
asphalt.
gray.
Is it blue gray? Yeah, it's to match
Dual gray is
existing.
kind of black.
There's 4 other buildings on the property.
Oh, it's on
Okay,
the
I'm okay with this.
foundation.
okay, I'll hold that. Everybody else?
Good with it too.
Al's
I'm good with
okay?
it too.
You're good with it too? John, you okay with this one? All right, John has made a motion to approve. All those in favor?
Aye.
There you go, Robert.
Thank you, board. Have a great night.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks.
you.
Bye.
Okay, next up,
Oh, I'll be on.
12 Nantucket.
Good evening. Good evening. How are you? Welcome.
I have Tim Holmes with Sunwind.
Thank you.
Here to represent the Holmes, Holmes, yes.
What house?
Steve gave me one, and I had to have the whole package myself in about 1 minute.
Abby back. Very good.
Okay.
But it's
What
on
do
a
you mean
wood
the short
roof.
stuff? Oh, it's
Seem to be
solar.
winning that battle.
It's solar. We're gonna stop sea level rise.
A front and back,
That's the front.
yeah.
Just a quick question. Well, I should be able to.
Black shingles?
No, these are red shingles. Well, wait a second. The application says scope of roof, wood roof and solar. Would you care to, maybe you should just give us a little bit of
Sure.
a description.
So right now the house has a wood roof.
Correct.
It is extremely difficult to install solar on a wood roof and keep it from leaking.
Interesting.
So
Okay.
what we need to do on this one is, the solar is going on the 3 dormers on the rear of the house. We're going to strip just the dormers only and then mount our brackets as we re-roof the roof. So everything goes in at one time. Yeah, so the 3 dormers on the rear will get a new wood roof, red cedars, and then install the solar after that.
Okay, now, I have a question.
Me too.
This photograph right here,
Visibility from
Yep.
here.
okay?
Right.
Now, I'm gonna assume this is Nantucket right here.
That is correct.
This is,
So, It looks to me like the solar panels, the three that you're discussing, putting aside the one in the back here, are on the front of the building. Because
Yeah,
the back
this is actually, the ridge is right there, Ray. Sneak your pen for a second.
Monopolizing the whole
The
thing.
ridge is actually right here, and then this is a front dormer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I
so
got
they
it.
are on the
Alright,
back. The
okay.
roof slopes down about maybe 4 feet, and then the dormer starts right
So everything's
there.
on the back.
It's all in the back, that is correct.
All right, so now that I got that part, could you tell me again about the re-roofing thing and what you're planning on doing there?
Yep, so just those 3 dormers.
Yes.
We're going to strip the dormers basically from the fascia board
Yes.
up to the ridge.
Yes,
So that we can replace that roofing where the solar is gonna be installed.
yes.
And
Okay,
we'll,
that's with wood, right?
correct, yeah, with wood, with red cedars, yeah, we're gonna keep it all the same,
Okay.
yeah. And they're on dormers, which are a fairly low pitch, so,
They're all on dormers.
yeah, pretty difficult
And
to
they're all on
see.
red cedar roof.
They all, yes,
Yeah.
yes. They're
So-
on red cedar.
I thought we had a thing about,
Well, we do, so, and,
Wait, I thought I got it, but I missed it.
Okay.
Yeah, the 3 dormers, 1, 2, 3.
Yep.
Right now have wood shingles.
That is correct, the whole house is all wood, yep.
And you want, what are you going to put underneath those solar? Are you gonna put black?
Wood.
wood,
No.
same red
Yeah.
cedar
I
wood.
thought you said it was difficult to,
No, we can't put it on an existing roof, so we have to strip it off, ice and water the whole
So-
roof. And then what we do is as we go up the roof, so we put on, let's say, the first 2 feet of shingles. Then we put our brackets down. Then we go over the brackets with shingles, so it has to come off to be able to go on.
it's really
so
complicated.
the whole,
It's a pain in the neck, yeah.
re-roofing part of this is not really germane to our discussion.
No.
Because
Yeah.
it's not changing the roof.
No, I was
Right.
hoping that I thought you were saying that you were gonna put black asphalt on the dormers, but
And this one faces, I believe it's conservation area right behind there, there's a
Right.
little
I walk
pond
my
and all
dogs back
that,
there
so
almost
there's,
every day.
that's a strike
And there's a,
against.
from the curve
From the cul-de-sac.
of cul-de-sac, you get a straight view right down the back.
Oh, down the back, that I'm unaware of, because I don't think I've ever actually driven down that cul-de-sac before. Okay, gonna go around the table here. Abby, do you have anything further to say?
No, I think it's got three strikes against it.
For our applicant's benefit, why don't you tell them what you consider the 3 strikes?
Well, the solar on the wood shingles, the view from the
Cul-de-sac.
cul-de-sac and the
Oh,
land bank,
yeah.
the conservation land.
It's, Gardner, it's the Gardner estate.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Val.
I appreciate that it's all on the back, but I agree, that's our policy with the wood roof. And is there any way at all possible to screen it?
I don't think so, it's all on dormers, it's second floor dormer roofs. I thought it was fairly non-visible from, with the exception of a couple of houses maybe, or the one down the very end of the cul-de-sac, but
That's a
thought-
wide open plain, that's.
yeah,
great,
it is,
so-
yeah.
Actually, looking at this little locust plan, I can
Yeah.
see how it would be possible to see the back of this house from the cul-de-sac, yes.
right, it goes down to the pond and then it goes up to the other way.
All the other views have tall hedgerows down the sides of the houses, so you really can't see anything coming down the road. You'd have to go down around to the cul-de-sac to be able to see it from the backside.
Well, and frankly, you can, from a couple paths over there at the Gardner estate, look over and see the backs of pretty much all these houses. Anything else, Diane?
I haven't said.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I said that it shouldn't be on a red cedar roof. We made a thing saying that the solar would be on black, so it was black and it wouldn't stand out. You have a black solar and a red cedar roof, it's not going to swing. The two views that I mentioned are there, and, it has to be a better application, or if he's got more property around, it's hard to see, put it on the ground.
I looked at the ground option, and there's really is no option there. This is going to be on the west side of the house.
Yeah, because,
The entire south property line has 20-foot tall trees. Then there's a pool, and that only leaves us with about a 12-foot wide strip on the north property line. Between the pole and the property line, there's hardly any space there at all. It would pretty much be shaded by the house most of the day. It might get 2 hours of sun. So we did explore that option with the owner, and it just didn't seem like it made any sense.
they have to choose between that they want solar or a pool, but it sort of flies in our decision of what solar roof should be like. Thank you.
Hey, Tim, I have a question for you. So they're going on the dormers, and then is there a bank of them going below the dormer on the main section?
No, nothing below the dormer, just up
But it
on the
looks
three
like
dormers.
Yeah, it does.
That's because the dormer's really wide. It's 2 rows of it, yes. Middle one, right?
Yeah.
The middle piece.
There's a couple panels on each of the small dormers, and then the majority of them are on the middle dormer with the 4 windows.
Okay. John, do you have anything else that you would like to say about this
Yes,
application?
part of this photo, this is the house.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
You said there's 2 feet of shingles and then trees start.
Probably, yeah, roughly from the bottom up.
Okay, now,
You can't see it
the
anywhere.
gable ends, do these go all the way to the gable end or the inside?
It covers most of it. It's probably in about a foot.
I don't
About
know.
a foot on
Yeah,
that.
on each end, yeah.
All
Should
all
be
4.
3 feet.
Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much, yep.
Foot in.
Yep.
The other one, you showed me where the pond is.
Oh, sure, yeah.
It should show up
The
on that
pond,
locus.
yeah, it's not on there though, he's right, yeah. I would say out there somewhere, John.
Pond's in the back of everything.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Actually, it's on the
Yeah, it wasn't showing on the locust either.
Anything further, John?
No, thank you.
Okay, so it sounds like you may want to do some more thinking about this, see if there's anything else that can be done. Because you don't have a majority in favor of, for a number of reasons. Should we request maybe some revisions on this?
Yeah, motion to hold for revisions, see if you can come up with.
Sure, yeah, could do that.
Okay, Abby has made a motion to hold this for some revisions. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thanks. Good luck. I'm gonna look at that too when I'm walking my dogs.
I'll find some black cedar shingles.
There you go.
Yeah, exactly, right. Right.
Or a black.
Okay, now we're on to 10 Polywalk.
Or. Oh, good throw.
There's that, see that?
Oh,
Straight down from there.
great.
What is?
It's on my first house after this.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I went by this today.
And
There's no other houses lifted up like this.
what's it put the height up to?
The most shingles that I saw
I know his name.
Oh, okay.
Terra, yeah.
were 2
Thank
rows
you.
of walls.
Right,
All right, so what you wanna do is just explain to the
Quite
board
low.
what you're hoping to
And
do.
look at it's
It's
just
fairly obvious, but,
sticking straight out.
okay, listen up, everyone.
So the house is about 950 square feet. It's pretty small, and I was trying to add a 3rd bedroom, and it seemed like the easiest way to do that was to lift the house straight up, add 4 feet to the existing foundation, and put it right back down exactly where it was.
So, in terms of details, that's all, if memory serves me, parging, right?
I'm happy to do with whatever the HDC would like. Parsing it is fine. I'll paint it. I'll shingle it.
Well,
Okay, interesting. Yes, Val?
so I did go over there, cause I thought maybe it was a situation where you had some flooding and that's why you were wanting to do it. But I didn't see any foundations that were over maybe 2.5 block up to the shingle course, so this is an anomaly. I think you have to rethink this a little bit. The way the stair just comes to a stoop and has 8 steps that go straight out, large windows across the front. Yeah, I think it needs to be rethought a little bit.
Can you, just for the applicant's benefit, when you talk about the staircase going up?
It's on the front, which is the west.
Understood, but like what, when you say that, what would you be looking for sort of as opposed to that solution?
Well,
The
somehow
the
to
stairwell.
integrate those, I mean, that's an unusual application
Integrate
to
the
start
stair-
off with.
Integrate the
Maybe go
stair-
sideways, maybe put a porch on the front, have some
Okay.
railing, it would obscure some of the windows perhaps, I don't know.
Okay.
Just for the record, there's currently hydrangeas all across the front, and we would remove them and replace them. So most of the windows and foundation, at least during the summertime, would be, screened.
Okay, thank you.
You didn't bring the foundation.
Was that it, Val?
Yeah, for now.
Okay, Diane?
Well, I think that if you're going to do something like this, the windows facing out onto the front elevation on the basement have got to be smaller. They're practically bigger than the ones above them.
Can I stop you right there? Because I want to get clarification on that, because those windows, Neil Parent drew the original set of plans. It looks like maybe perhaps you drew in the windows below. Are the windows below intended to be the same size as the windows above them?
Yes.
Okay. So,
Okay.
basically you take those windows up above. See, right now you're
I
not.
have an idea.
You're not looking, well, so do I. But it's not my turn
Well, I
yet,
hadn't
so. No, but
finished.
no, Diane, you continue, okay? I just wanted to make sure that those windows weren't larger than the other.
Yeah, well, they look larger just
They
from the
do,
way they are
but they're not.
drawn.
Yeah.
And there are 3 of them in the front,
Mhm.
and that's too many. And if they're not placed sort of in the same area around the front door, I don't think you could match, you're not even matching the windows up above. But it's making the house look weird. I can't tell you why, but is the foundation, this raising of the thing going around and supporting the little wart off on the right?
Why is there no foundation under
There's
the
no
left
foundation under
farm?
that.
You know what? That's how the house was built. That's how it is currently.
But they look like wings.
Currently, this is not 5 feet in the air, is that correct?
Yeah, so
But it is a
there's-
couple feet up.
They're basically saying that it's more pronounced now that you probably have foundation plantings around that right now that conceal it. And this drawing sort of
You
makes
can't
it
have
look
them
like
hanging
everything's
out
floating
on
up
both
there.
sides of the house with nothing underneath it.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
It needs to go back, as Val said, it should be reconsidered, I believe.
Yeah, that would be my feeling as well. I think this is back to the drawing board.
I always have a knee-jerk reaction to back to the drawing.
Oh,
Go ahead.
not to the back of the
I was
class.
just joking. Sorry.
Yeah, no, well, I just think that
Currently.
there's gotta be another way to add another bedroom. You have just one more bedroom to your house, and having it elevated suddenly.
Well, there's actually a couple different concerns. I don't know if it's appropriate, but one is that when I talked to a couple local developers and other homeowners in the neighborhood, our property does sit a few feet lower than all the other houses around it already. And the foundation, the top of the foundation is about parallel with the street, and as you noted, everybody else has got about 2 feet up off the top of the street. And so there's wetlands down the street that when it rains heavy, sometimes it floods onto the property. And so it was suggested to me that it would be smart to bring the foundation up above the street and water level. And so, and also with regard to the addition, it's complicated with the setbacks. It just wasn't really feasible.
Okay, that gives me a few ideas, but I do want to go back around, because Val, you said that you had a suggestion.
Well, so I think we need some drawings that show really what's happening, not just the basement, but the first floor as well, because I think that could help us, help you.
Floor plan,
Yeah.
okay.
Again, I think some sort of, something to mitigate this height, and that there's so many stairs to that front door would go a long way. It's also, you're dealing with a house that has a very unusual proportion. You know, it's very small in the middle, and the wings are almost as big, and by elevating it, it's just throwing the proportions off. What about the idea of making the basement level your first floor?
Oh boy,
Lift your house up.
like really lift it.
Leave your foundation the way it is. Put a first floor and set this back down on top of it. Move the door to the first floor.
So then you have to go underground to get into the house?
No.
You'd
She
be on
said,
ground.
leave the foundation the way it is, lift everything up, lift up all your wood framing, and put another first floor on top of the
existing
foundation. I think that might result in a house that is very tall and narrow, my first thought. But I have some other ideas.
Okay.
John?
Yes, I think I know he has a problem there, because there's a lot of water. I almost bought this house, years back. I only this is one.
Lot of water.
Fifth one in.
My wife can't even get out the front door with our kids when it rains hard.
No, I'm just making a statement, because
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of water in Polly Walk, you know?
Digging your basement,
And that's the only reason he didn't buy the house, because this is it, one of them, you know? But anyway, I can understand what you're trying to do. Now, the cantilever,
Oh,
that's the thing,
course.
cantilever.
Yeah.
Foundation has to be on the cantilever. When the cantilevers were being reached, they have to go all the way down to the ground. Even hang it off like this is not typical in Nantucket, you know? So I don't know how you can work it out, that's entirely up to you.
I mean, I just put the foundation under the closet, right?
Yeah.
Does it need to be foundation, or is it
Okay.
more of a
Well,
aesthetics?
all right,
I
so-
think you got more to fix than that, though.
No, here, okay, I'm gonna give you a few things to think about. Okay, accepting that the foundation, if I got what you said correctly, the top of the foundation is now at the height of the road.
Correct.
Which means the grade is lower than the road, and that's to John's point about it being wet. What you may wanna consider doing is leveling out the grade, bringing it back to the house so that the grade is actually covering up some of that foundation, okay? And then, if you take the shingle line and you pull it down essentially to where the tops of your windows are, then you're not gonna have that much foundation showing. This much is being covered by grade and this much is being covered by shingle. So you have this sort of, now it doesn't look like it's poking out of the ground quite so much. The other thing I thought about with respect to Val's comment of the stairs sort of go straight up is maybe you do a one-sided friendship stair that comes off the side and just move that window over to here and just have the stairway come down to the side. To John's point, you could, instead of doing a foundation under those two bays, just have like vertical board. You know, you've seen vertical board under porches and stuff. Just something, he's looking for something to ground the bays so that they're not just hanging out there. So those are a few things that I think that if you consider, moving the shingles down is very easy to do. Bringing the grade up is gonna cost you some dough for the fill, but it's going to make this building appear less tall. So I think those are some things that you may wanna just consider.
Did you mention going, instead of a straight shot to the front door, that it goes offside and you come to a landing so it zigzags out?
Kinda.
Is that what
I
you- yeah.
was sort of suggesting like maybe going down this way and then moving this window over here, so that you had, you know, a stair that went up like that.
But the other thing to think about are the 3 windows in the basement, that we really shouldn't see those from the street. Like Diane said, they appear very large, so.
If he raises the grade,
I think that's a good idea.
if he raises the grade, my guess is that you're gonna lose 18 inches of the visibility of those windows. And the way this is drawn is not quite accurate either, because when you have a window well, you don't want the window well right at grade. You want it to be like that high above the grade so the water doesn't go into the window well. So that's gonna take away even a little bit more of that visibility of the window. So, I think
I
those are
even
some.
want a French drain. I think
Oh,
that's the problem.
yeah, definitely. If it's
Yeah.
wet, you definitely want that. So,
Hold for revisions?
hold for revisions.
Definitely.
Okay, all those in favor of Abby's motion to hold this for some revisions? Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, where are we? Brooke? Brooke, we're at you now. 16 Mary.
This must be all polylogs. Why did they even do that?
Johnny.
It has to do with where the wetland setback is.
Thanks.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm positive it's more than what, remember when he said, oh, there's issue with setbacks and stuff?
Yeah.
That's what he was talking about. Like, he's got a wetland setback there, he's got. Okay.
Do you have any pictures?
Okay, hello.
Okay.
There should be pictures in there. I actually have photos from the street of this building.
What's going on?
So there's an existing structure there, an existing one-story ranch style structure. We are proposing to lift it and put a garage underneath this structure, or a series of garage bays. This structure is at the back of the lot, and the garage bays do not face the street. So they will have limited, if any, visibility. There are a few buildings very close to it that would obstruct any kind of view coming up Marianne Drive. And for context, if you look across this, there's a building across the street from this building, which is a very large storage building with,
Across the street from this building.
yeah.
You mean at number 7?
This is Terry's neighborhood, right?
Oh, died.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, so this is,
Yeah, anyway, so I guess my point is that most of this building, or the most offensive parts of this building, which I would assume would be the garage doors, are not visible.
okay, thank you.
Otherwise, we're just repurposing the main building and lifting it.
Comments from the board?
I'm okay with it.
Okay, that was easy. Val?
Was it, I didn't view this. Was this on our view list? No?
May I say something?
Oh,
Oh,
yes.
Of course.
You
Yeah, I
can't?
was gonna ask you.
You can't see it.
Okay.
Oh.
Based on a neighbor saying
I was
that.
gonna ask you if you,
It's sort of
Oh, yeah, of
across
course,
the street
right,
from me.
Okay.
okay,
Not a direct abutter.
yeah, okay.
All right, well, based on that, then I'm okay with it.
Okay, how about you, Diane?
Yeah, if you can't be seen, then that's it.
Okay, John?
Yes, on the question, when you raise it, are you keeping this small section?
That section comes off.
I'm glad you said that.
Yes.
My other question is, let me just see. Garage doors here, right? So
Yeah.
that's interesting, well,
Yeah, the garage doors face that way. And that's Brian's, that's Ryder Electric right there. That's the neighbor. The only view really is straight down this way and the garage doors face that way. And that's the back of the building.
the question I had, I guess part of Charles, forget what I was gonna ask.
Am I allowed to have pickup trucks?
No, it's like sleds waiting for the snow.
Yes.
No chumming with the
Sorry.
applicant.
Okay. Thank you.
Motion to approve is submitted
There we go.
based on its visibility,
Zero.
or minimal
lack of.
visibility.
Aye.
All in favor of Val's motion?
Aye.
Okay, there you go. Okay, 29 Tomahawk.
Thank you.
See ya. Howdy.
Howdy.
This is where we should, this area is where we should allow solar all over the place.
Yep,
Sure,
Oh my gosh, and it's almost a flat roof.
yep.
What about helicopters?
Motion to approve.
I'm gonna hold the motion just for a second, Val, but, just to make sure that no one has any additional stuff.
Black.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
I mean, you'd have to be on a ladder
An
40 feet
airplane.
high to see this.
A drone.
Exactly. Okay,
That's
so
what I was gonna suggest.
does anyone have any concerns with this application?
Nick,
Out on Tomahawk, on basically an almost flat roof.
no.
Good. Diane, you're in, right? What do you think, John?
Stairs are on the back of the building, right?
The
He's not applying
stairs.
for the
Some
building.
Tomahawk?
Well, actually, the stairs are on the back of the building, yes.
You say no.
Of the building?
Yeah, well, isn't this the stairs right here? And that's Tomahawk right there?
yes.
Yeah, John.
I'm checking it off.
Yeah, the stairs are on the back there.
Okay, that's what
It's very similar to the project that was approved, I think, like earlier this year on 29 Tomahawk.
Kind
Same
of.
thing.
Well, this is 29.
Oh, excuse me, 37. 37.
You tried to trick us, did you see that?
Yeah, yeah. Well, they look so similar,
Okay.
and the design's
As
pretty
we
much.
usually do, we ask for documentation. Where's the documentation on the solar?
Oh, you mean the panels and all that, John?
Right, not in here.
Should be included.
Let's
Yeah,
see.
maybe,
Look through your package.
yeah,
And we'll look through
maybe I
ours.
did, maybe that would be my bad if I left it off, but it is exactly the same panels. We use the same panel on every property, all black panel.
Nice comment, but when the guy 5 years ago takes this out, and looks at it, he doesn't find it, what happens?
They take off his head.
Actually, John is
Very
correct.
negligent.
Yeah.
John is correct that there's no documentation. So can you, as part
Add it to
of,
the-
let's see.
Yeah,
Who made the
add it to the
motion?
motion.
Could you modify your motion to say that the applicant will submit documentation of the panels for the staff to review?
yes, that
Okay,
is
would
my
satisfy you,
motion.
John?
That satisfies the commission.
Yeah, okay, all right, so then I'm gonna entertain Val's motion to approve this with documentation of the panels going to the staff for review. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, very good, and you got one more, right? 26 Hendrick.
Right, it's in Tom Nevers,
Is there documentation? That's all I wanna know.
well, it should, our process does,
Scared to open it.
Let's see.
I might have been trying to save paper.
It has the documentation.
Okay, so
Okay.
clerical error on the last
Yeah,
one.
yeah. It happens.
So this is in Tom Nevers. It's a relatively large lot.
Bizarre
it's-
lot.
Yeah, it is. The property's set back about 100 feet from Kendrick Street. One key point is that this is going to be a black roof, black panels on a black roof. On the photographs, I included a view of Google Maps, and you can see there is a large amount of vegetation surrounding the property. And then the other two photographs show the shot from sort of the entrance to the driveway. The panels you wouldn't be able to see the panels from this view because it's going to be, on the southwest
Correct.
elevation. And then as you walk down Kendrick Street, this photograph was taken about a month ago. Obviously, it's in the middle of winter. You can see the house through there, but you've really got to work pretty hard to see the property from Kendrick Street.
You mean this?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, if nothing changes,
And you're
it's
looking at the
kind of at an
gable.
angle.
And it's on a black roof.
The fact that it's on a black roof and on the rear,
Correct.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's also
All true.
at an angle, it bypasses the other buildings.
that's an oddball lot.
That's what it looks like.
Sure
Right.
is.
That's exactly what it's like.
Okay.
So I just have one question.
Sure.
How come there's not an even amount of panels across the whole thing?
Just because we wanted to, based on the size of the roof, we wanted to try and get as many panels as we could onto the roof. And this was the layout that supported that.
So they're going in different directions?
Sure, we have some in portrait and a few in landscape. There's 6 panels there in landscape.
I hate that.
Different shape.
Wait, oh my God. Well, I don't.
This is landscape, that's portrait. And it looks funny because the roof is tilted like this, so these are actually these are taller than they are wide.
You know,
It doesn't
I
appear
think,
that way.
I mean, visually, I think it would be better flip-flop the other way and have the 2 large ones on the top. I think seeing the contrast at the roof line is going to be
Is that a
more,
problem?
does that make a difference to you, whether they?
That's a good idea, Abby, because that's probably the most you'll see.
I guess our thought is it's a it's a windier area, and to try to keep those corners, like those would be the corners you might potentially see to leave the roof there. There's also some roof vents up there. So instead of like filling out, you see how the
I didn't see the.
they're near those points, so we're trying to
I see.
allow some space to.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay, I think, are we ready to lift off on this one? Good? John's ready.
I'll make a comment. Basically, anything out of town above the first floor is visible from some public place. I've always gone by that strategy, and I think it's a good strategy.
It's true, and in this case, they're putting the black panels on a black roof.
No, I don't know, it's all part of it, no, it's not in the old HDC.
Yeah. Okay. Somebody wanna,
Make a motion to approve as submitted.
I think Diane beat you to the punch there.
Okay.
Diane's made a motion to approve as submitted. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. There you go.
Thank you
Off
very
to the
much.
races.
Thank you.
Okay, David Silva. I don't see David.
Do we have to vote?
Is anybody here for David Silva's application?
Motion to hold for representation.
Good. Okay, all those in favor of Abby's motion to hold David Silva. I know your name, girl. To hold David Silva's application. All those in favor of holding, aye.
Sorry, second out, just, yes,
You
aye.
got it. Everybody's in. Okay. Now we're on to Val's projects. So Stephen, you get to sit once again. You're back in. Just when you thought you were out,
Just
they
when I thought.
pulled you back in.
So you know what? I think I'm gonna do some research. It just shocks me that maybe those panels aren't available in squares that are half the size of the rectangles.
Oh,
And
wow.
then they can
Well,
line them up
oh
on the
my
top.
gosh, that would be fantastic.
What's on the last
That's good.
application?
Yeah, just.
Well,
should
there's a
talk to-
brand.
Talk to the
Yeah.
boss.
Who knows? Steven's checking out your panels to see whether they come in different shapes,
Any of them.
like squares as opposed to rectangles, for example.
You can get special custom ones. But really,
Dollar signs.
They're really no. You can get a blank.
Blank?
Like,
Oh,
so
it's
I-
dead.
Oh, to fill in the,
Those
yeah,
big
basically
things
like
are
a plate of
terrible.
aluminum that's tone black.
Yeah.
So
That's an interesting concept. We're gonna force you to do that from now on.
Which one do you have?
What?
15 Warren?
We
Yeah.
have 15 Warren, yes. Okay, we're all on this. Ready? Okay, Holly, we have two things here. We have HSAP that says, I guess the building's from 1850.
Yeah.
Prefer to see with shutters, especially given archive photo, no concerns about the chimney. Okay, that was that, and Holly says, circa 1850, contributing, obviously. Although shutters are appropriate for the style, I see no issues with not having them. She must have read the HSAP comments. Provided the windows stay 6/6. Is that your intention?
Yeah.
6/6. Removal of non-historic chimney is okay. Interested in HSAP's concerns, if any. Well, the only thing they had to say was about the shutters.
So I would point you to this unusual location of this house, which none of us even knew existed. You actually access it on Boyer's Alley, and it's dead at the end. In between houses all around it, its technical address is 15 Warren, but that is only a 14-foot wide walking path. So
Right.
what you see is 88 feet back of a 14-foot wide path to that front facade. And what I should have done, and I apologize, is take pictures of it as it's existing, because presently existing, it doesn't have shutters. We thought we would put them back based on the historic photo, but they just don't want to spend the money.
Can I say what you normally say? There's no need to take pictures. They're often from the point of view to benefit the applicant.
Not often, always.
Oh, always.
That's why I gave you a historic photo.
So you're removing the non-historic chimney.
Yeah.
And you are.
Just asking to not put shutters on that front
Oh,
facade.
that's it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Okay.
All right.
They're very law-abiding
Diane.
citizens.
yeah,
Do you have your opinions all in order?
yeah, I would be able to live without the shutters because it's very hard to see this house, whether you come in Boyer's Alley or walk up from Warren's.
Very true.
And the chimney that's being removed is one of those furnace old chimneys.
Correct. The
Right.
original one that you see in the photo is remaining.
Yeah. So I don't have any problem with what I see here.
Sounds good. Stephen?
I have nothing to add to Diane's comments.
All right, thank you. Abby?
I'm sorry to see the shutters go, but maybe further down the line when they hit the jackpot.
Exactly. Right. John, any comments, questions?
Motion.
All right, we'll take it. All those in favor of John's motion to approve is submitted.
Aye.
Aye.
What happened to
Thank
David Sylvia?
He
wasn't
nobody's here
here.
to represent, so we.
We're holding?
Joe.
We're holding to representation.
And we're holding, okay, thank you.
So now, John, we're on 3 Friendship Lane, Val's second project.
Well, I'm just representing it. It's actually a modular by Dreamline. This
Okay.
is Joe Torme, the owner.
How you doing?
Oh, Johnny, I'm sorry.
This is,
Dreamline, the new,
yeah.
whatever.
Huntington.
So this is a little covenant lot that was cut off of the larger lot at, what's the address of this? Number 3, yeah. In the upper right-hand corner is the previous approval for this site. I cited the COA number. And it was a 5-bay facing the road. this house is downsized from its previous 26 by 38 to 27 by 33. And
You
we're,
mean there was something here approved previously?
yes, it's in your upper right-hand corner.
Oh, okay, thank you.
And this is turning, so it's gable forward as opposed to the, right, with a porch on the front.
With a porch on the front.
Mm-hmm.
He's right next to Dorothy Marks's house.
Right, right past that garage.
Now, I'm sure there's a drawing here, but these big black things are just.
They're posts, yes,
Right.
that's just how they sent them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Do you wanna add anything, Joe?
No, not that I could.
Think
So
of?
the gable faces the street?
Gable
Yeah,
forward,
as opposed to the prior approval was eve facing and it was larger.
Oh, and the porch is on the gable end, so that's nice. Yeah, okay,
That's what faces the street.
correct. Okay. Let's see. Stephen, you ready?
Yeah. Dale,
You,
if these were your drawings, I would suggest that you put a watermark on here that says property of Dale Oliver. But since they're not, I'm not gonna make that comment. I believe the
missed it.
cantilever will not be, visible from the street, so there's no reason to put lattice under it. On the right side of the west elevation,
that's that,
but
the fireplace thing.
it should show up. Oh, it does show up on the south, okay. I mean, other than that, it's a kind of a typical residential Nantucket home, I see no concerns.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. Diane?
I don't know, I guess there's nothing much you can do, the posts, the black posts.
No, they're not gonna be,
I know they're not,
Yeah.
I just was
Kind of
pushing the
alarming.
button.
I'll speak to them about that.
They're all not uneven, but what's behind them is uneven. Are they going to be painted or are they going to be natural?
Natural cedar.
Natural cedar.
Yep.
So they may fade in to the area. And what's the thing on the south elevation?
That's a gas fireplace
To bump out for gas fireplace.
Oh, okay.
with a vent, and you don't need a foundation under that.
All right, so that is the south elevation, that faces Bartlett Road.
Yeah, through Dorothy Hertz's
Yes,
house and garage.
On the east elevation, you have just 3 windows in that whole elevation. Is there nothing in between the two on the top or another one down on the first floor?
I think he's trying to keep the cost down.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that is a view that faces the house behind him,
Yeah, it faces over towards
which there is a house
Cato
there.
Lane.
There's a house.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's a house already set back there on the back lot. They just set a Huntington back there in, I don't know, maybe it might have been October. So that'll be the gentleman I bought the
so
covenant
you don't
lot
want to
from.
look in his.
Ideally, it'll just be bedrooms and the
Okay,
slider.
I see.
So on the second floor, it'll be 2 bedrooms there.
Okay, and
Or a bedroom and
you have
or the bath,
air
that's
moving
right.
around between the east elevation and the north elevation, so that will help. So that's all.
Okay.
I think it will fit up there on the hill and
Well, he's actually down the hill.
Down the hill a little
down the
bit.
hill.
Front of the hill.
From where Dorothy is.
Yeah, and from the guy
Oh,
behind
the
you.
The
guy
gentleman
behind, yes,
behind me,
yes,
he's a few
yes.
feet higher on the elevation there.
Okay, Abby's good, you're good? John?
No comment.
Just in case.
I'm fine with it.
Everything's natural to weather,
Sounds good. to me.
black windows and doors, and the front door he wants Newport blue.
Okay, all sounds fun. Whiskey? Yeah, it's whiskey.
Bourbon eggs.
What do you think? Can one of you,
Motion approved is submitted.
that's it, Steve.
Sorry, the chocolate hasn't kicked in.
All those in favor
Here it
of
is.
Stephen's motion?
Wait, don't
Thank
give
you.
those to me. I already ate them.
Have a Cadbury egg.
There's a whole bag of them over there, so be careful.
I'm giving them up for Lent.
I'm gonna eat the bags first.
For another 3 months.
Yeah.
We had a water though.
Okay.
clap for a covenant home? Sorry.
Yay! See ya, Joe.
How's that for timing?
Are you here for Ethan's stuff?
Two of them are Ethan's, one of them is mine. It's all the same project.
That's a yes.
So it is.
That's a yes.
Okay, alright. Oh man, now
Yeah,
He does not like to come out at
Stephen,
night.
you're a bad influence.
Hey man, Cadbury eggs or whatever they are, they're awesome. Mini
This is
eggs.
giving me a sore throat.
They would be good if they were bourbon.
Yeah,
It's too sweet.
You don't have
Yeah.
the New Year's flu though, right?
The coronavirus?
Yeah, I'm calling it Chinese New
I just
Year.
got back from China, so
Where's my mask?
I'm gonna go do the tour at the White House.
If I spread it around, kind of when I
Did you really
call
go back to
Diane.
China? My daughter just gave up a trip
No,
to
not yet.
Japan
We
because of
told
that.
you.
Yeah, I bet. I went to
Yeah.
Vietnam last year. I was in Vietnam this time. I'm glad I did it last year. Not this year.
This is all
Not a good
well,
time
we
to be in
just had
airports.
Right.
prune and
I know somebody who's home
Okay.
sick and got pneumonia from doing nothing.
Okay, Holly has the following. Oh, yeah. H Sab and Holly, so, H Sab first. Incomplete application, but no concerns about white throughout, application needs filters.
This is for the color change?
I believe so.
Because this is, I mean, this project was put on automatic approval a few weeks ago, and he just literally changed the color of the trim.
What?
Here's what Holly has to say. There's Holly right there. Okay, so
I thought we were tight.
1955 contributing cottage, revisions to, certificate, fenestration changes and trim color change. Open of view, yes. Plans do not show the previously approved elevations. Plans should have photos of existing structure with trim color. If other, does that really say blocks?
This can't be a new one.
Oh no, buildings. Yeah, sorry. Buildings on 5543, that's Mountain Parcel 50. Also have white, okay, if not, would be odd. Okay, thank you. So,
What is the new color?
I think it went to white, didn't it?
sounds like it.
Yeah.
From what?
I don't know what he had on the original. I'm just, was it gray? I think it was like a sort of, like the aged shingle color, yeah.
And then it looks like you have a few really super minor, architectural changes like windows.
No, that was on the initial permit.
That's not.
That was already permit, no. This is
Okay.
only the color change.
Only the color change.
Yep.
Okay.
From what, wait,
The trim, it's just
Okay.
gray to white?
gray to white.
I wanna make sure that we're absolutely clear on that. So is the building currently gray? Do we know that?
We don't. I'd hold this for more information.
I have pictures in my
You
phone.
do?
I do,
Oh,
in my,
okay,
in
good.
my phone, I have pictures.
Okay, we may request, excuse me, just for the record, that you take those and print them out and submit them to the staff if we're ready to approve.
They're actually included in the landscape, which is number 3 on this. You,
Okay.
I mean, you're gonna
Let's
look at
see
them
how
in a
it goes,
minute.
But, you know, we just wanna make sure that we're really approving what we're supposed supposed to be approving.
Let me see if I can.
So John, apparently you're saying that the existing building is all gray.
Yes,
And that it is going to white.
yes. And all the changes were already permitted.
Okay.
It's just a dormer, door change, moving a shower. That was all put on consent a couple weeks ago. Would it be too much to ask if we just pulled the third application, the hardscape or
Not at
whatever
all.
it is? Yep, there should be the public, public view photos will show you.
Yeah, because HSAP says new photos.
This is all Ethan's fault. I have photos included in mine.
She apparently came prepared and is bailing Ethan out.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Let's see.
There's lots of white on that street. Yeah. Yeah.
Is that the application for the shed or for the?
That's the application for the fence. The shed's in there too, though, somewhere. This is the hardscaping.
Yes. Where is the application? Where?
The application?
No, where is the?
You want the pictures?
So, John, any comments on this house going to white
I don't
trim?
have any problem. All confused. My Alzheimer's.
It says 13 Warren, I think, on the plans, but there's been a lot of confusion as to the exact address. It's 16 Warren, right?
That's what it says on our.
Yeah, 13 Warren was my project. See, I was so confused because I went onto the website and I kept telling Ethan, I said, Ethan, this isn't 13. He goes, just put 13.
Okay. Does anybody see anything wrong with it? I mean,
No.
this is so easy.
Okay,
Just
let's
pass
go.
it.
More chocolate.
Here we go.
Come
More.
on, guys.
Yeah.
Pick it up.
Just motion to approve.
Okay.
Thank you.
All those in favor of Abby's motion?
Now I can bill Ethan
Hang on.
$1 million.
John, so what this
That
is,
motion covers the color change only.
correct?
Yes.
That's it, going from gray to white. So Abby has made a motion. All those in favor of Abby's motion to approve this
Go
color,
from gray to white.
gray to white. All those in favor?
Right.
Aye, okay. We got this one. Okay, now we're gonna review the shed.
I was unclear as to what the questions were regarding the shed. Ethan drew it, but I actually designed it.
So here we go. HSAB says, architecture, okay. Sighting may be too prominent given proximity of street. Holly says, no photos from street provided.
Oh, well, those are
Same
mine.
windows and trims as unit one. So, is this? Holly, does this mean that you want to confirm that the windows and trim on this new shed match what's already there?
The shed matched the house. Oh, yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the windows that are being used in the shed would refer back to the ones that are already in the house.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Is there any vegetation, beyond the driveway disguising this shed at all?
So, here, let me just, you might need your pictures again. Yeah, they're in my pictures too, but,
Finger pointing is good.
let's, I get confused on which is
Okay.
which here.
Orient yourself.
Yeah, here, Katie, shit, here we go. We're just backwards. So, this is all hedge existing all the way around here. And it's really thick here. So this is actually, this driveway is divided in half. This is that unit, this is this unit.
Oh,
So the privet, existing privet goes like this,
oh, okay, so
all the way around the front.
well, we're barely gonna see this
You're not
shed.
gonna see anything.
Well,
We're just putting an arbor right here, because the door to the shed is gonna be here.
like that one in the picture?
Yep,
Okay.
and that's in my plans.
because we're gonna do a sliding door here, cause there's not even room to open
Right.
up
Right.
the doors.
good?
That's it.
Wait,
Yeah.
where is it? Oh, this
Yes.
is it. Oh, okay.
There is a hedge.
Comes
Don't-
down
don't-
here,
yeah.
over, over,
You
over
might
here.
want to just show John.
Right.
Like 6 by
8.
Yeah.
John?
I showed you.
Hardly worth
Oh.
standing.
Hedge. So this is confusing, let me turn this around, because this is actually, you're looking at it, the driveway comes off Warren Street, so this driveway is actually, this driveway is to this building, half of it to this building, so there's privet that goes through the middle.
We're gonna need
It
this
also
back.
comes all the way along the front of this property, and goes all the way around like that.
Start making
Can't see
paper
it.
airplanes.
Wait a minute.
It'll probably be clear too when you look at the landscape plan.
She keeps throwing
That's
stuff
the
at
shed,
me.
right?
Yep.
I have nothing else to do.
Where's the fence going?
Oh,
That's on
John,
the-
we're gonna
that's on
see
the
that,
next-
This is
that's
what
the
we
next
want now.
application.
This is what she
So
for her
it
app.
seems,
All right, we're good.
okay.
Right.
Motion to approve.
Thank you.
There's a motion on the table to approve this as
So
submitted.
we're-
All those in favor?
Aye.
Great, now we can read the fence.
Is
And
the
then
porta
after
potty going away?
Yes,
Oh, sorry.
it's in the pictures, but it's not included in all my plans.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
There you go, John.
HSAP, no concerns, though brick details would be helpful. AC units, question. Condo partition would have been helpful on other additions.
Condo partition?
I think they mean the property line.
Yeah, I think that's what they mean.
Oh.
Holly says
It's right
fence,
there.
gate, arbor details, brick detail, photos.
I did have photos of the arbor.
So here's
It's an
your
existing arbor.
Oh.
You looked at it,
I-
and I'm just replacing it with a new one because
It
it's
was-
rotted.
Oh,
It
Existing
was on the
arbor.
shed application.
so
Here,
it's a like kind of
New
placement?
arbor.
Exactly the same thing, and then we're adding a second one for access to the shed.
Oh, I see.
Here.
But it's exactly what's on the application, it's just the one that's there is totally rotted.
We say so.
And it's gonna be natural to weather, we're not painting anything.
Kill Damage.
I'm surprised that thing's still standing, actually.
So you're replacing like kind
Yes,
then?
yes.
Question,
Yes, John?
says fence, where's the fence going?
The fence is right here. So there's existing privet right up to this point.
Where's the garden type of fence?
There's attached, it's just a 5-in-1,
5.
just a 5-in-1 with vertical lattice.
where is it?
So it'll run from this corner of the property
Right.
line where there's existing hedge, so we'll start with the existing hedges, run in front of the existing hedge, and then go all the way to the street with a gate.
It's a 5-in-1?
Yes.
You should start of the building here.
I know, but you know what? It makes it really awkward because then people can walk off the street and go around in front of their building. There's
But
nothing.
you don't allow it to go down
General
5-in-1
policy,
to the
they got
street.
6-foot,
Fence gate,
Fence,
arbor
yeah.
details, brick.
who owns this property?
Who what?
Who owns the property next door?
Next door? I
Tell
don't,
me somebody's gonna walk in here.
well, I don't know people why, it's just a privacy thing, you know, this is how they get to the trash and
General
answers
policy,
and.
it's this.
So we're literally, this is all existing, it's just adding the fence and a gate to make it private, so people can't see the trash bins.
The general policy of the commission was done about a year ago, 2 years ago. When was that done, Steve?
A while ago.
I agree with you, Johnny.
Well, I see a fairly easy solution to this.
Just move the
There
gate.
should be,
See,
but
well, you have a 36-inch gate. Could you not just go 36 inches to this spot right there, which is in line with the front of the building, as John said, and then 5-in-1 behind that? And then still people wouldn't be able to, unless they were gonna vault over a 36-inch high fence.
So where would the gate go, at the corner of the building?
It stays right here. I'm
Oh,
just
the
saying.
gate can stay there.
Yeah, exactly. So this, instead of being 5-in-1.
So
would
what
be
if
this-
it curved down
What,
like this? It's sort of like it makes an S curve and comes down, so that last panel is real short.
The board itself.
Yeah.
The board portion. Remove the lattice.
Yep.
Cut it down
So it comes down to about 3.5 feet, I think it's like 40 inches, and so you can't.
Two different fences.
Two different ones. Okay, so
Why do you have to have it rounded or kind of just? cut off,
Yeah,
come
maybe just
down?
drop
We
down.
can do it that way.
Yeah.
Around it just looks nicer, but we
Yes.
can just do.
Squaring off of 5 and 1 is gonna look weird. I mean, not, rounding off a square,
Yeah.
5 and 1 is gonna look strange. But my question on Warren Street, I don't understand why it's not like a conventional picket fence.
There's not enough room between the existing hedge and the actual pavement. There's no, there, I would like to put in a type 2 fence there, but they would have to dig up the existing privet and move it in. There's not enough room. The privet is literally on the pavement.
5 and 1.
No, that's just on the
that's on the
side.
side.
So what is on
In the
Warren
front,
Street?
just
That's
the
just privet.
hedges.
That's just
Just a
existing,
gate.
that's
Oh,
existing
there's no,
privet.
there's no gate, there's no fencing on
No.
Warren Street
There's
itself.
there's a gate here, but that's
on the
behind
corner.
privet. And then there's a arbor here, right? We
But
already
no
discussed-
fencing on Warren
No,
Street?
Nope.
no, it's
There's-
all,
there's
the
not
arbors
space.
are let into the privet, no fencing, fencing is alongside. And what we're debating right now is this issue of taking the 5 and 1 and having it end at the front face of the building, which
And
would
then
put
drop-
it there and then
Dropping
drop
it down. I think that's actually a good idea, I like that.
Okay.
Dropping it down to
Fine
what,
with that.
3 feet?
Well,
or 4?
the gate is
The same
36
height as the
inches,
gate.
so
Same height
Okay,
as the
so
gate.
36
dropping,
inches.
the 5 and 1 drops down to 36.
What's the gate? Just
do
a
you-
picket gate?
Yep, just a type 2 gate,
So then that little piece of fence would just match that.
exactly.
Right. Which we should note down because none of this is actually noted on the drawings.
Yeah.
In other words, say that the gates.
I'm writing it here.
Yeah.
Type 2.
She's got an exhibit A going.
And so would the last length of fencing along the east, western property line.
It should only be 5 or 6 feet, I think.
What?
It's only like 5 or 6 feet, I think, there from
Yeah,
the
that's
corner of the
what it
building.
looks Yes, John.
Proposed bluestone patio, where's it going? Are you applying on this application?
Yep. Right now, there's an existing brick patio, and we're gonna pull up the brick and we're gonna repurpose it around the back and side of the property. Cause it's,
Where did it show that?
so this is the existing brick patio
You put that.
that we're replacing with bluestone. So we're gonna repurpose, and I have it in a note here, all existing brick to be in its square footage is gonna be repurposed on site. And we're gonna move it to here and around the shed. Cause this is deep shade and grass doesn't grow, and we wanted to reuse the brick, so the rest is gonna be gravel here.
Is it written on the application?
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Any more comments on this application? I think we know what we want. Can somebody,
Well, Val's made an exhibit A, correct?
oh, you have?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
great.
why don't you make a motion then, Val?
Motion to approve per exhibit A.
And exhibit A, just so that I know.
It says the
Is-
5 and 1 fence ends at the house, it turns to type 2 picket and ties into a type 2 picket gate.
Correct. Okay, here, let's just vote on this one first. All those in favor of Val's motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
I'm not voting.
now, yeah, you just did, but you're not. So, there you go, you're all set.
Awesome.
Works
for me.
So, 5-minute break, everyone. Okay?
You guys can take the rest of the day off.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. No,
I'm not on it. I'm not on it.
Okay, 5 push-ups.
5 push-ups, go, give me 20.
Katie and I were classmates.
Oh, yeah? You youngins.
Yeah.
You look younger.
20 years ago.
Wow, guys, let's see.
Yeah.
Assuming there's somebody here for every application, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
So what do you think?
6
Come over here while I
applications.
have an egg.
It's only 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
So if we do 6, so I say 8.
I'd say 5 minutes an application, for God's sake.
And put
That's
a
safe,
timer on it.
and then that will, I think, Diane, that would allow us a little bit of time. We do have, I would like to just, get resolution to some of these
That's
other,
great.
other business things, but I think we'll have time for that.
Yeah.
Before 8 o'clock.
I need to get the taxi, because I'm using a taxi.
Really?
Yes. Val's Taxi, or R&R Taxi, because to get out of my room, I can't stand up yet. And I have to have my grandson come and lift me up and put me in the chair.
Yeah.
Then Diane takes me down and we go into his taxi, and then he brings me here and she brings me up, and I only have to transfer twice instead of 6
And
times.
to get into the cab, can they lift
No,
you?
it's marvelous. He's got a thing that goes out the back,
Oh, really?
and he just runs me up the ramp.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
And then I don't have to get out of the.
You can stay right in
I
your
sit
thing.
there, he hooks me up, he's so nice.
Yeah.
And then when I get there, she runs me up, and not tonight because my grandson who picks me up is out on the street protecting people at Francis and Washington Street where they're doing the new sewer.
Oh, yeah.
He was out there until 3 o'clock yesterday.
Wow, I saw them down there this afternoon, I drove by.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know how we're going to get out of the chair tonight, but I'll crawl.
I hope you will need to. I just want to come and say hi and get a close look so I don't be all later.
What?
You look
No one's bashful, they'll say.
I was gonna go skiing and then.
I like
Because
that.
this is like the nice part.
It was pretty bad.
But they should get them, right?
Yeah, but I mean, also,
They-
most of this.
if they
was
didn't bring them
like this
the
was
first
like.
time, they should bring them to the table.
I don't know.
I'm all that. It's like, why are we doing this if we don't get what we need?
No, it's the sweetness or something.
Did you try these?
No,
You want to try it?
this one.
It's egg, cheddar, and
I'm gonna
bacon.
go run downstairs.
It's got no carbs. Well, protein.
Where'd they come from?
I don't know.
Stop and choppy?
I think it's like a crispy omelet.
We're just sitting there.
European omelets aren't supposed to be crispy?
It's awesome.
Where I cook them, they're crispy.
Hey, Cap, these expired like a year ago.
But they're crispy still, right? He's got them on Amazon.
I'm just teasing.
So you can eat them.
I had a guy come into one day at the shop, and he never brings anything, and he brought all these like sweets. And I just happened to be looking at it, and I realized they were all expired. That's what.
You probably got them from box.
Yeah.
That's all right.
You got these on Amazon? Cap?
Yeah.
Sounds like you get lucky.
Oh, I did.
I see you're eating the non-Amazon.
No, too much fat in it.
So, yeah, it goes all the way around like this.
I don't mind if they're other things.
The cheese balls?
Yeah, I
Did
was.
you try these?
No.
It's cheddar, egg, and bacon. It tastes like a crispy omelet. Here.
No, no, no.
I was
I
gonna go
do
this
not.
weekend,
It's
but
healthy
I
for you.
I got
There's
it.
no
I
carbs.
already ate some healthy stuff. She doesn't want healthy, she wants Cadbury eggs.
It's really good. You could have this with a Corona and be on vacation.
I feel the cavities starting to
There's no sugar.
Oh, come on, cavities. Sugar doesn't give you cavities.
Anybody have a
That's a
dentist
myth.
around here?
Who?
Oh my god, I can't believe I can't remember her name.
It's okay.
She's wonderful, the Brazilian dentist.
Yeah, she's really good. She moved.
Anybody
she's
have a
not on
name?
it. I'm drawing a blank.
Brazilian?
I've got
A Brazilian dentist?
Lyme's disease. I'll blame it on Lyme's. It's
Lucinda.
no, it's Lucia. Or,
Yeah, almost.
It's not quite a
Yeah, she's very good.
She's wonderful.
And she's nice.
Oh my.
That's really helpful. Whatever.
She's a sonic device for cleaning.
Really?
Yeah. Very cool.
What a group.
I'm
Hey, you asked for a dentist, we're giving you the
You
product. and
didn't
you're-
give me anything.
The Brazilian dentist.
What's that, remember they relocated? Remember the
Schmidt.
off Old South?
Schmidt.
What's that I just can't think of the name of the road. It's Accidental.
It's out
But they
near where,
moved to,
it's out near
it's
where
not
Terry lives.
Mary Ann Drive, is it?
Yeah.
They're on the corner of Mary Ann and Old South Road.
Oh, where the framer used to be.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
that was the food shop. Okay. Where's the framer gone?
Really great.
Okay.
Okay, so here comes Val.
I got it for you.
We're gonna get
Lisa
back
did.
in session, folks.
Lisa got it for
We're
you.
gonna put a wrap on this one.
5 minutes per customer.
Yeah. Okay, everyone, we're back in session,
I'll tell you
and
something.
that means that we are now at 2 North Beach Street.
Did anyone bring water with the snacks? Cause,
I have some if you'd like a sip.
no, it's okay.
God, don't do
I
that.
don't have cooties.
It's okay, I do.
But there are fountains
Apparently I
Thanks for the
do.
warning. Welcome.
Yep.
I brought some last time, I just forgot.
Okay. Everybody together?
Yep.
So we have HSAP comments on this that reads, unattractive, visible, there are options. Okay.
And that is it.
And I did not write any comments.
Okay.
15. Where's your thing? Look at that.
Working on this, are you
Yeah.
working on this house right now?
Yes, we are, yeah.
Okay, so. Oh, I see. It shows up on the west elevation.
Hi. No, 8 o'clock.
West
think it-
elevation,
I thought I'd just let you know.
which is.
All right? All right.
See.
Bye.
Oh, west is on the back.
But you can see it,
You can?
but it's still the back of the house.
Is this installed already?
No, it's not.
It's not.
It's not installed.
That's good.
So this picture is.
Oh, so
Gas
Val,
fire
you're
pit.
saying it's visible because you're gonna be able to look over the other lot that's, I believe, on Euston Street?
No, look at the photo they provided on the south. It's the south and the west.
Yeah, but that's taken from the empty lot on Euston Street, I think.
Yeah, pretty close. I mean, it's right out by the,
So it'd be right in here.
Wait, are we really worried about this dinky little thing?
Look, we've in the past had some,
Horrible ones. But
protocols about this, so we just have to,
24 inches above the roof.
Is it,
it's
a pipe?
metal, yeah.
it's metal.
Galvanized steel.
Can you put a
Okay.
thing over it?
Yeah, can you conceal it in the?
It's right on the edge of the,
What color's the roof?
Yes, yeah,
roof is
that's
black.
not a piece of jewelry.
I'm sure that's an option.
And
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
North
Dark
Beach.
black, no brainer.
Painting in black? Okay.
I mean, I'm not on, I'm just saying.
if it's right here and it's 2 feet above the
got it
roof.
Val, so what, the idea is being tossed around that, you could paint this whole thing black instead of having it metal. Would that
That would be better.
calm the wound? How about you, Diane?
If it was guaranteed to stay black and not peel off because of the weather down there, otherwise he should put a muff on it.
You mean like
Muff.
a cowl?
At time of inspection and thereafter.
Right,
Keep the
the,
black paint on?
just a thing that looks like a little chimney, because
you a visual.
once we allow them to go in, they're,
Is that about 24 inches?
Yeah.
I mean, there's one on 69 Easton already.
They probably didn't apply
It's a
for
scale,
it.
if you look at it, it'll tell you how long it is.
No,
I,
you have to
I
add to
think
it.
there has to
Shut
be
up.
some sort
There's an
of,
existing one.
Where is the
You don't have a
scale?
picture of it.
I have an, this is 69
You were
Easton,
right.
which
This
is,
is
you can see where it is.
Here's the damning evidence, everyone. So this is 69 Easton.
okay, so keep in mind, we don't know if that was approved, it could have
Probably
just
not.
been put on.
Okay.
Probably not.
It's taken from a not good vantage point
And that
for you.
there,
Didn't mention the
I
width.
can't see a reason to just let it go.
What's the harm in putting
It's in the historic district.
a sleeve on it, or whatever you wanna call it, that we do on other places, where you
Yeah.
just drop it on it and tie it in and it won't
What
catch
those
right?
require is, ventilation.
They're not gonna put a roof on it. Just have it go 24 inches around the pipe looks like a little chimney.
And so there would need to be ventilation.
You still need a
on-
cap on the top of it when it's all said and done.
There is going to be a cap.
There has to be a cap, well, a cap, I think what's shown is the high wind cap, what's on there right now, that's a high wind cap, yeah.
Oh,
So that's
well, that's
on-
the cap we're trying to conceal.
Right.
But in terms of something going on top of that, if you
No.
put on like a faux chimney, you don't have to have that. It could be open on the top.
Yeah, and I'm not sure, I'd have to check with the manufacturer. if
Sometimes
it's-
what we've done too is the chimney, the faux chimney, has two sides that are basically flat. And then on the sides that you can't see, it's open so you can get the, that stuff needs ventilation.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
So I have a question for you.
okay.
Looking where the little fireplace is on the floor plan,
Yep.
could it not direct vent out the side?
No, when you look at this, actually look at the house, it can't, that was our first option. There's actually a window there, and, it cannot, that was the first option. It will not fit with a direct vent out the side.
I don't think you can put a black chimney up there with a
It's too much.
koozie on the top.
It's like you gotta build this huge thing.
Yeah.
Photo thing about
Is that the top?
those
It's
stovepipes
history.
are,
Yeah.
yeah.
Historical. I know.
This is a little different because it has this big wide cap on it.
Yeah.
His was like literally a stovepipe.
Yeah,
Are they-
mushroom
Talking
cap,
about
yeah.
Angus,
Yeah, we had one.
Angus's thing on,
It was
In
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin?
Yeah.
But that already had a precedent of one that was
I know
there.
this is
Well,
different.
I'm just saying, like, why couldn't we get a more historic looking stove pipe?
Because I think they need to have this, what did you call this again?
A wind something.
They said it's a high wind cap.
And it's down on North Beach Street.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's gonna
It's
howl
not a
down
very
there.
historic area.
It's not?
No.
Coming.
It's on Easton, from the corner of Easton.
Well, this house, I
It's
think.
right on the
Easton
very
and North
outside,
Beach.
right on the very outskirts of.
It's a very low one-story structure. It's not in the old historic area, it's just outside of it.
It's,
It's
isn't
200
it down
feet
at the
on
corner
the
where all the,
first property line. And this is under the, the first property line is back here.
Yeah.
So, and this one here is a separate lot, it's not built on, it's all
Correct.
wet,
That's right.
so. and I'm
Owned
saying
by
that-
Ed Murphy.
That's that, but I think Steve might have a, great idea on this,
The black paint,
painted black,
well, I like that idea. And there is black stove paint.
I wouldn't
It's
even
good to
mind,
like some crazy.
what about
high
black
technique.
below this? And that
That's
leave
gonna
that
make it even
galvanized.
more noticeable.
I'd love to get rid of all the shiny metal stuff. That might
painted
look
black.
I don't know if I
Just
can
sand
add-
it down.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, I'd like to make a motion,
try that.
to approve this with the, stovepipe chimney being painted black.
Sounds good. All those in favor of Abby's motion?
Okay.
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone
All
else?
those opposed,
All
aye.
those opposed?
aye.
So 2 in opposition, 3 in favor of, the ayes carry. So you have your
We finally got a couple of
You
no's.
have your stovepipe, but we need to paint it black with some of that, stove paint. Okay, thank you. 57 Orange.
It's in the old historic district, just an FYI.
57 Orange Street. How much in?
How much in?
How much in?
Yeah, it's on the border.
What did you just say?
I
So
refuse
don't
to use that.
don't.
I'm not gonna say anything.
Just drop
Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, what number are we
I
on?
told her 8 o'clock.
57 Orange Street.
Yeah.
Because you wanted to go through something after
Ah.
the thing. We have 5 left.
Okay.
Good to be here.
HSAB.
I'll text her.
Not appropriate fence instead of boulders. Plantings. Oh, wait, fence instead of boulders, question mark. Plantings, question mark. Wow, so what do you have going on here?
What we have going on here is,
8, right.
they were having problems with trucks driving on the lawn. So a couple years back, they installed these. So they are existing, and there is a picture on the plan of them existing.
Oh, yeah.
And so they got a notice, and here we are today asking, putting in an application for these and seeing what your thoughts are.
Wow. Those boulders have been there for a long, long time.
Long time.
How long?
Long time, 15 years.
15?
Yep.
I'm not entirely sure, but
Well, the first part of that going down, I live down at the end of the street.
okay.
And they had that area where they had those bricks that the grass came up
Yes.
through
Yes. Yes.
it. And either that didn't work or somebody complained. So they got rid of the bricks and said, never mind you nasty people, and they put the boulders in.
They did.
So it was surely 10, and it may have been longer, because that's, I don't know if you remember the rhododendron they had at the end of the grass lot and everything. That's how old that was.
Oh, no kidding. I'm new to this project.
Oh.
But I know the owners. If your 10 years could very well be. I knew it was quite a few.
I'm pretty sure, because as I say, every day I go home, I have to go home that way and down. And I was interested in seeing the drive-on bricks. And
Yes.
they didn't have the blocks
Routed
then.
them out.
And they took those out, and that's when they put the
That's when they put the
boulders
boulders in.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, point of clarification, this was actually a property violation. I received a photo from a miscellaneous customer in the area, and I sent out a notification in November, and then a second one just more recently, and she called and hired you to.
The property
Resolve.
violation being what's under review right now, or
Yes,
something else?
Yes, the hardscape that wasn't approved, I pulled the file and there were no rocks approved for the hardscape on the
I pulled
plan.
that same file. There was nothing else.
So that's why
What,
they're in
somebody's
front of you.
complaining about
This-
the rock?
I think this is actually gonna be the first time that I've ever reviewed or approved rocks.
It's not a rock wall.
We did a
It's
warehouse,
not
now we're doing a rock.
cobblestones. It's just plain old rock.
It was to keep their property, which they spent some time on planting some really, really, really nice flowers and rose bushes. And it gets narrow, and people tend to go over on this side and to make the corner going on to Orange Street.
Yeah.
And nobody's ever complained before. What did they did wrong?
I don't know.
says-
I question whether that's even our jurisdiction, but,
It says here, Mr. Chairman, if I may, unapproved boulders.
Oh, come on. Who signed that?
No, it doesn't matter
Ray.
who signed it.
did he?
I don't wanna get Ray in trouble.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
point of notice from staff, I did not write a comment on this, but I did reach out to DPW because I think that the commission needs to just take into consideration, we don't know exactly where the property line is
Right.
versus the
Okay.
town right
Well,
of way,
yes.
which is extremely important. We don't know where these boulders are located if they are in the town's right of way, so just to.
Yeah, and I mean.
Good point.
well, So, yeah, that's a really good point, because if they happen to be on town property, DPW can, basically
Can I make a motion to find out if they're on the person's property?
We need an as-built survey.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Somebody's gotta survey it, you know, it might be as easy as finding a concrete bound out there at the corner of Orange Street. But,
Sorry, that's. I
I'm
guess
sorry,
we-
could you repeat your motion?
Oh,
'Cause
would
I
we
missed-
just to clarify if they're on the person's property?
Well, I went down and I got the file and I got old surveys and that's what you see here. That's my rendition of it's not an as-built. I don't have an as-built on here.
Okay, so,
I think it's before any as-built, I think they
May I
would
make a
just
comment?
put it.
I mean, I would suggest that if, and maybe this is what the applicant's agent is saying, is they measured and scaled these and they represent where they are, but to request an as-built drawing, which is a survey drawing, to have a surveyor come out and spend $1,200 or $1,500 on this, when if they're represented, I think there's
being
two
on the
separate
property.
issues. One is if they're approvable on the property, and the other is if they're not on the property. So if they're approved, I'm not saying they should be, but if they are, they can be approved subject to being on the property. If it's determined that they're not on the property,
all bets are off.
Yeah.
that's their problem, not the HTC's.
Yeah.
But
That's
if
what
we
I'm
approve
asking.
it and they're not,
They're in the
who's
grass.
gonna make them take it away?
Yeah. So
And why, it's just
Well, but
five
you know,
silly
like-
there,
boulders.
there could be
I can't tell you how often this happens, like on Burnell Street, for example.
where it's grown over.
The road easement extends
This is where
into
he
somebody's
had
yard, like
The
Okay.
drive on
15
bricks
feet.
right here.
Okay.
And then
But who's
they'll go and
gonna
they'll
do the
plant a
survey
crooked
and
hedge
prove
out at
that
the
they're
end where the
either
road
or
is.
not?
Yes.
Yeah.
The
It's up to them.
DPW will come and make them move it 15 feet back,
If the
because
DPW
that
looks
15
at
feet
it,
of grass that they thought
They're
were
gonna,
theirs
in
is
a
actually the
town's
town's.
later,
See.
they're gonna take
So
it.
that's what we're talking about.
Okay.
So I think that we can approve this
Put it back
as-
2 feet.
with the stipulation that the boulders are in fact on the owner's property as
And not-
opposed to on.
The town property. Okay, that's
the
my motion.
clarification.
So wait, you want that to be certified though?
Hmm?
You want some?
I think it's actually, you know, my own view is it's incumbent on the DPW, and trust me, they'll, if those boulders are on DPW property, they will enforce it. They'll do the measuring and they'll find out and they'll make a citation. They have in the past. You know, if a primitive hedge goes on their property, they come out and tell you to move it. Happens all the time.
So,
Yes.
Quick question.
Yes.
Where does one find out where the road easement?
I don't think that it's incumbent on you or your client, because if it's on DPW, if it's on town property, the DPW will do the work for you.
Sure. Okay.
Okay. So just rest easy until somebody says you got to move it.
Just rest easy until somebody tells me. I
Until
have
the
to.
DPW comes around and says you're on town property, get rid of those things.
Very good.
and you've
Okay.
already reached
Now,
out
but
to
can we
them.
have a motion
Property spread close.
on the actual boulders being in place?
So we're just gonna make a motion to
It's at
approve
the
this
condo there.
Yeah.
until he gets, okay.
And you can,
Hi.
if you
Hi.
want, put the
Fred, yes,
stipulation
yes.
that they are on private property as opposed to town property.
Okay, motion to approve, provided they are on private property.
Opposed to town property.
Look at this.
All those in favor of Abby's motion?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, I vote no.
Oh, okay. You don't like the boulders?
No answer.
Okay.
I vote
Okay, well
against the
then,
motion.
let's see, we gotta make sure who's in and who's out. Val, where are you on this?
I'm okay with it, I just really think somebody has to prove that, and I think Holly reached out to the DPW already, so in short order, you should know.
No, I know that they will be all over it if they think the town property has been used for private purposes. Diane, how about you? Diane? Out?
Am I in for sending this?
the
Actually,
boulder.
are you in for approving the boulders, assuming that they're on private
Yes.
property? Okay, so the vote is 4 in favor, one opposed. The motion carries. There you go.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks.
Have a great night.
Okay, Mark Poor, you're up, friend.
Dana Black.
Alright, so this is weird, because we just got paperwork that this property is like an appeal, 112 for Winnet.
Oh, yeah.
So what are? It's kind of
Hey, Mark. Mark, welcome.
confusing.
Hey, thank you for having me. John?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Is
I-
it 112?
It's
Yeah, it's 112.
No kidding.
Well,
Okay.
it was mentioned that they were abandoning the permit, I think,
Yeah, I kind of
or the
heard that.
approval, but not.
Are you talking about the appeal to the renovations to the house?
Yeah, the owner
Yes.
was
Quote,
not
unquote.
pursuing the renovations, but the appeal was going forth based upon the neighbors and any of that.
That was my assumption. I'm not involved in the, Matt McEachern was dealing with this project and he got overwhelmed with work that he had to do, so they threw it at me and said, can I help out? So, Mark Poor for the applicant.
Yes.
The project before you is it's a tiny house, and the tiny house has already been approved in its original form at 240 square feet without the porch. But because of all the fenestration changes that have been made on the structure itself to make the floor plan work, we decided we'd come in as an entirely new application, even though the height of the building, the 240 square feet hasn't changed.
Okay.
It's just that every elevation has changed. We included the egress door that was required for the second dwelling. We included the stoops. We included the porch. We included the outdoor shower. We showed you where the condensing unit was going to go. None of this showed up in any of the other drawings that were approved prior to this. And we've shown you a couple of different options for windows, and we're really open for discussion on the glazing aspect of it. The door system that you see faces west, and the idea for that system under the porch, keep in mind, so on the porch, so it's somewhat shaded, was to get as much transparency in this tiny house as possible, because it is really quite small. And then the rest of the windows were just dealing with bed placement and that sort of thing. The upper level windows that are shown in the drawings were approved in the original concept, but none of the lower level placement or windows have been approved to date in this, and nor the porch for that matter.
Okay, so Mark, I believe it's safe to say that the proposed west and east elevations, that's like one proposed.
This is
like,
fun.
you have one choice there. And then for the north and south elevation, it would appear that we have several choices in terms of how the windows.
I think, yes,
Right?
yes.
Okay.
And that's really due to trying to place a bed on one of those walls. And we're just open to suggestion on how you feel about the doors.
I'm gonna extend this, because it's actually three elevations that are fixed. The south
Yes.
is also one choice.
That's correct.
So the north elevation is the only one that we
That
have
has options.
Option A, B, and C, I believe.
There may be a D option there, I don't know if it.
Option A has 3 windows.
What's the difference between C?
Some windows are ganged and some are not. Some windows are 4 light and some are
Those are all
basically
2
3
lights.
light,
So
2 lights.
The C and the V, I don't like the 2 lights. And why is all that stuff, all the air conditioning and all that stuff on the side of the house that faces the street?
There's a proposal that's going to come in to you by another resource for the retaining wall. The retaining wall is intended to be the waterproof component to berm the new septic system in.
Oh.
So that's going to be about 4 feet tall, as I understand it. So
Okay.
you won't see the stoop, the air conditioning unit, the crawl space access, or anything like that at
That's
the
where
end
the
of the
proposed
day.
waterproof
Yeah.
retaining wall.
That's
well,
right.
that won't hide all of it, so will there be plantings there?
I mean, if the wall is 4 feet high,
Yeah.
it's gonna hide all of it.
Elevated leach field.
Well, you're not gonna wanna see it anyway.
No,
So,
we
yeah,
don't,
It's
no,
got
we
an
don't.
outdoor
So
shower.
planned it out. And
And they're gonna, there's gonna, yes, along the driveway, once that proposal comes in
See
from the
that?
landscaper, there's gonna be a hedge
There's 4 feet.
separating the driveway from the cottage, so it will be screened out with plant material.
okay.
Okay, good.
Can
All
I
right, so
just
I'd like to
make a-
hear everyone's opinion about which one of the three north elevation options you prefer. Go, Abby.
Well, my first thought is I think it's, the roof lines are complicated. Could it be a broke back where when you go down to the porch, it's part of the same? You've got an 8 and 12 pitch on the gable.
Right.
And then you bring it down to a 12 and 4. Couldn't that just be a broke back where it has a
Oh,
continuous?
it certainly could. It was
Then
just
you
that we were
avoid that sort of.
honoring the original form that was approved, and we were just adding a porch to
The
it.
original form was
We don't have the original approval,
It was a Structures Unlimited.
of course.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, I think that would simplify that.
That we can work.
Okay. Thank you, Abby. Anything else? You still haven't told me which one of the three. No.
Or if there's another one you like, or would suggest.
Actually,
I think I don't know.
Can I tell you which one you like?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I like this one.
Yeah, I like the simpler one. Just the three
one
windows.
window up, 2 windows.
Yeah.
That was our
The
first, that was our first.
The Trinity.
I like the one
That was our
that's got
first.
2 windows and 1 window. That's even simpler. Yeah.
Which one's that?
Yeah, that's the one we're talking about. That's the one that Abby and I.
Not the 2,
A1B, is it?
whatever.
What's in the
No.
title block?
A1A.
A1A, right, that was the original fenestration that we presented to the client, and they
Yeah.
asked us to look at a couple of other options.
Yeah,
Yes, yes.
Simple's better.
All right, Diane.
I like the one with the 2 windows.
Yeah, on 2 windows on the first floor and then a little gable window.
Yes,
Okay.
and that's,
Good.
and that's all. I want to make sure that that
This is
firm should
opening
cover
now.
the working equipment to make to cover those things, and you have a shower out there on one of them, so
On all
that,
of them. Jason, on it.
yeah, it's all there on A1, AB, and AC. That's the shower, all the shower you see from that way. So you might make sure that if you measure up 4 feet, you're still going to see
You're gonna
top
see,
of the
yes,
shower.
that's correct.
a door
No,
with a
no
portal.
doubt.
And yeah, well, you say that because that's your.
That's facing the road, right?
Yes.
That's
Oh,
east
we're
elevation.
100. We went to see this. We're like 80 feet off the Long Winter Road, aren't we?
Well, negatory.
Didn't we go see this?
This
again?
is right at the,
This is the
where the
closer.
parking area is.
Trying to figure out. Trying to figure out how close. Oh, here's a graphic scale.
It's still about 60 or 80 feet back.
It's
60 anyway,
It's well,
because
no,
of the-
it's more than that.
because of the septic field and everything else out front.
It's 120 feet away from All Winter Road.
And there's a-
But it's
look,
wide
Look at the
open.
top. There's a graphic scale. So that the overall length of that graphic scale is 60 feet, and it's like almost twice that distance from that building to the road. So 100 feet plus.
Taking us to court.
Anyway, so I want to make sure I'm hearing this right. So you have a few amenities on that east side. Are we saying that we object to seeing the shower enclosure?
Yeah.
'Cause we do object to seeing the shower enclosure. Okay. Maybe we should put a
But
fence
why?
around the shower. Just kidding.
That's very funny.
Plant something.
Well, that's
Put a bow
possible.
in it.
Well,
What's so wrong with
plant
seeing
material
the-
could go on top of the retaining wall.
Yeah.
Because we can plant on top of that septic area. It's not that the leach fields are going right to the edge of the retaining wall.
Right.
So we can do some planting on top of that, but nothing to do with me, unfortunately. I have no
Yeah.
control over that. That's a
Well,
landscape aspect.
What we would do is put some kind of a stipulation into our approval.
Sure.
So that it would cover, you know.
Yeah, that's agreeable.
Until we have something on
Absolutely.
the wall itself. Anything else on that side? 'Cause, John?
Yeah, I have a question,
Yeah.
Why
Why are there
this
three?
elevations have 2 windows?
They're options,
There are options, John. And the
You
option,
just take them out.
Which
Right.
do you like?
the one that's
Yeah, maybe you
being
should
looked at is this one as being probably
We like that
the
one.
simpler one. The other options here are, there's option here, and then there's option B and option C, and those are being discounted at this point.
Right.
The porch. That's what it was.
Oh.
This porch comes all the way across.
Yes,
Across here.
yes. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'll make a motion.
I have a question though,
Yeah, go ahead.
and I know
Go ahead.
sorry.
No, no.
It's not related
We're over the
necessarily
5-minute limit.
to this structure, but is any of this stuff gonna happen?
We don't know.
Well, you mean the retaining wall?
No,
and
no,
all?
the house.
Oh,
where
it's
being-
under appeal, so, you know, it's either gonna be abandoned or the appeal's going to be enforced.
So here's my reason for asking.
Okay.
That was such a large proposal. Are we gonna have now too much house on the site?
Well, but to Mark's point, I believe that we already approved, and please, you have to correct me if I'm wrong here, but there's already an approval for a building down there.
That was a shed, right?
No, it was approved as a new dwelling.
Yeah.
And they got planning board approval just now.
Yeah.
Right. So
Okay.
what Mark has submitted this as a new dwelling. But the only reason he did that instead of renovations is there were enough things that had changed that he, rather than bubble the whole thing, he just figured, well,
Gotcha.
put it new. But so the reality is that it's not new. There's already something that has been approved there, so you're not making it any worse.
Is it
than-
taller?
No.
No?
17
Same
feet,
square
3
footage.
inches.
Same square footage,
You know,
same, you know, nothing's changed with the roof pitch.
Sorry.
We've only added a
What?
porch.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion.
okay, go.
Per page A-1A, north elevation, with the shower to be screened from the road,
Walnut Road, yes.
and what
The
else?
AC
Broke
too.
back.
And the AC as well,
Yep.
and the broke back roof.
Right.
You wanna join the porch
Yes.
roof
Yeah.
to the main roof.
I think that would
Yeah.
be more.
That would look
Okay,
good.
we'll have to steepen the roof pitch to do that, which is fine.
All right. Do you have a question? Go.
Is this
Through
approvable because of lack of visibility? It's quite a bit back off the road.
Well, it is back, it's back plus 100 feet off of Walnut Road, John, and he's gonna be, or somebody, not Mark necessarily, is gonna be putting vegetation on top of the mounded septic
Mark's not
system.
gonna be doing it?
But he's not making a claim that it's gonna be invisible from.
No,
from
I am not
Walnut
making
Road.
that claim.
So it's not being based on lack of visibility.
Okay, all in favor of
Okay, so
Abby's
all in
motion?
favor of Abby's motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. We'll see you later. Okay, next up, 3 Coon Street.
Turning the page.
Yay me.
Turn in the page.
It's all shined up.
Hello. Thanks for waiting.
No problem.
So roof shingles.
Roof.
It's just, it's badly deteriorated. They've been on their architectural 90s, have been on there 20 years. I think there's some photographs in there that,
Okay.
and it's a horrible color.
Oh.
Oh,
So,
I can't wait to see it.
Is it like
Yeah, so I don't even think about it anymore, sorry.
Bile green. Let's see. Okay, here's what HSAB had to say. If like kind, no concerns. Oh, but you just said it's a horrible color.
Well, oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so you don't want to do that.
That deteriorates.
If new color, okay, if new color change concerned about color, and that this certainty shingle cut is angular and not square, and will create an awkward run to ridge. Needs catalog reference to visualize concern. IKO. IKO is the manufacturer of the shingle. Okay, so now Holly has offered up the following.
They want to re-shingle.
It's in the OHD, as we know. Pewter wood is the name of the shingle that you have chosen. Existing asphalt roof, no concerns. Would this allow pewter wood within the OHD if approved? Well, that's a very good question. So,
Pewter wood, not one of our approved.
I don't.
What about
believe it
nickel
is.
I
gray?
understood it was, cause I was bringing, you know, I said, what do I bring? Do I bring the samples? Do I bring the boards? And everybody I called
Have you
at
seen
HDC
nickel
said, you don't have to
gray?
bring anything. No, I'm not in that. No, I'm not nickel gray. So I saw that, somebody, you're gonna
Hey,
discuss
listen, we
it.
have to pull in our
beautiful.
local authority here who is sitting right there.
I don't believe pewter gray was an approvable color in the OHD, so that's why
I'm looking for my list.
HSAB.
No, this is pewter wood.
It's called,
Yeah, pewter-
it's called
pewter wood.
pewter wood.
I don't believe
I
it
don't
is.
remember that.
I don't have the list in front of me, but do you have it?
She has it.
It's an in-stock shingle, it's,
Yeah.
Finding list, standing by.
Yes, we can make short business of this because we have a list of approved shingles within the OHD.
I have
That
it
just
down.
got, that was enhanced by one more option as of this evening. There's that.
I blame Android. It's not on the list. It's not in my.
pewter wood.
Pewter wood is listed, but it, as an architectural, but it's not approvable in the OHD.
Oh, it's out of
But
town.
it's approvable out of town.
Okay, so I'm just gonna tell you, so probably a year ago, we reviewed all these different shingles from different manufacturers and we approved some of them for use in the old historic district, which is where you are. And then a greater number of different shingles that would be approved for use outside of the old historic district. It sounds like this one was approved outside the old historic district, but not within. Have I said that correctly?
Yes. Sounds
Okay.
good.
Now,
So I think what we need to do is have a list at the counter.
We do.
Okay.
We do.
Well, I asked about that and they said, I said, should I bring the sample? Should I bring? And you said,
well, you don't
Never
need,
mind.
You don't need to bring a sample because it's
this
already
is,
been,
it's already listed.
it's been
And that's
reviewed.
been on my application, pewter wood, and now I find out it's not.
Well, it's only
It was, if
approvable.
it was there, listed and not listed, I wouldn't have bothered bringing that color in here, I'd change the color. You know, if it's listed there in the office.
It's listed in a list that says OHD in other parts of town.
Okay.
And
Where's this list?
In the office, it's right behind, if you stay at the counter right behind you.
And I asked, I said, where can I get?
I apologize.
I'm not you.
No,
Okay, but I asked and they said, no, these have all been, you know, if it's certainteed or whatever,
Well, we
they've
have
got
new
the
people,
samples.
too,
They said
that-
they've got the samples.
Okay, so.
So it's right
is there-
behind me?
What is the closest color in the OHD?
I'm telling you, it's that one up in the
The
balcony.
one we just approved?
Yes,
Nickel
you should
gray.
go see it. It's
No,
really
yeah,
nice.
it won't be my call.
Oh, won't be your call?
Whose call is it?
Oh, the owner. I'm just doing this for, yeah,
okay.
this is the
Well, so now
owner's.
listen, this might be good news for you because we just, tonight, first order of business was to approve another color shingle called
Nickel gray. Yeah, I saw that in your.
in the
too.
old historic district.
Okay.
Sounds to me like that might be a really close match to the one, no?
I just want to be clear that
Go.
that's a 3 tab.
Right, this
Oh,
is for
yeah,
art.
this is an
Because the
architectural.
architectural has that same stippling
This
type of
looks,
thing.
um,
So the 3 tab is what? So the only
They probably make it in there.
the architecturals, the only ones that are approved are the charcoal black, the
they're all dark.
colonial slate, and the moire black.
Yeah, so those are all dark, the
Yeah,
architectural,
yeah, I know,
because
yeah.
we don't like
Weatherwood.
seeing the contrast. Sometimes
Yeah.
they have like a light and
Weatherwood,
dark.
Weatherwood too.
Weatherwood, when did that?
Remember, Linda got that approved on.
Yeah, but that wasn't approved on the list, I didn't think.
well, can I make a suggestion that the owner go back to the beginning and see what the choice is and make
Yeah,
the choice?
yeah, then I'll just
Yeah.
tell her. You make
Yeah,
it.
and our apologies for the confusion.
And replace
And
the
you did
whole
wait.
roof.
Everything, yeah. The whole roof goes.
Right.
It's highly deteriorated.
You have
It's
trouble,
been a-
put it on the red cedar. Like you do.
Well, John,
Oh.
there, he's also gonna get all the options for his client about what the approvable
Yeah,
colors
yeah,
are
and then I
in
can
the
tell
old
them, yeah.
historic district.
I'm
And,
just-
and the list is very complete,
What color is
and
it now?
now we do have one more choice for you today.
So that list is down at the office there, I can, okay.
It's on the website.
All right.
See the
Okay.
administrator tomorrow. so-
Thank you.
Yeah,
That's
All
my
right, so
motion.
we'll just hold this application until you work out your plan. Well, thanks so much.
What
Okay, can
about-
I have a motion to hold for,
Motion to hold
uh,
the application.
I guess we don't need a
Okay.
reason, but, okay, all those in favor of holding the application?
Aye.
Aye. All right, good. Okay, Mirka. 2 Cranberry Lane. Hello. JB is not here. Maybe he's gonna show up.
1957, we got 3 minutes to wrap it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
1950
Axie's gonna be outside.
Oh, we wait one more minute, it'll be my birth year.
Really?
1959.
Oh.
Oh, you youngster, you.
I got 2
You
years
were
on
born
it. I
the
was
same
all
year.
2 years on me.
And my mom.
I'm only 85.
Wow.
So,
Hey, you were born the same year as Holly's mom.
Yeah, she gets 5 minutes and then
the shed is, the shed
You just
is on
wasted
this
my minute,
application, too.
actually.
We're chewing into America's time here, guys.
The only
I
thing that
know.
I didn't know was the outdoor kitchen, what it looked like.
On the,
Oh.
yeah,
The
I,
shed is
Yeah, there's
easy.
an outdoor kitchen, right?
yeah, there is like a built-in one, but we can cross it because that's something they are not even.
Cross it as in
If
striking
if
from
if
this.
if you cannot approve without the
Well,
elevation,
we don't
it's-
know what it looks like, so.
it's a
we
3
couldn't really
feet.
do it.
Just cross it
You know,
out?
is it stone, is it?
I
Right
see.
out.
Okay,
Someone knows better.
Okay,
so I can just eliminate
anyway,
it for this application if that's.
Alright.
Then you can work out the details.
So we can approve the
Yeah.
shed.
And shed is okay.
The shed and the other stuff, the patio, all that's good.
What did you cross out? What did you cross out?
The outdoor kitchen.
Okay,
Okay.
folks, what do we think?
Approved without the outdoor kitchen.
Yeah.
Oh, we're good with that? Okay, I'm gonna strike the outdoor kitchen.
Only because we
Who
don't
made
have
that
any
motion?
information
Val
on it.
did.
I did.
Okay,
Aye.
so Val's motion is to approve this without the outdoor kitchen.
Aye.
We'll get more details. All
Wow,
in favor?
that's the way they all should.
Aye.
Okay.
Now,
30
Mirka, I believe that I need to recuse from the next one.
Washing.
That's correct.
Okay, so I'm recusing from the next one.
All right.
It's Lisa's project.
So, give us a minute to get the drawing.
Somebody needs some new printer ink.
New printer.
Yeah, me too.
Oh,
I
I
can't-
went out to this little dirt road today off of the Cliff Road and to get down to this pond, and there's a dead deer
Ugh.
right there in the parking lot.
Oh.
Just in addition, I just
wanted to like have a- cross
section.
Natural or hunted?
No, they were all cut up. It was all cut up in
Oh.
pieces.
Well, I can tell you.
patio.
Oh, thank
That's
you.
wrong.
I can tell you was not a Nantucket hunter.
No.
No.
Just cross section, because I bet you wanna see the.
Well, so that was gonna be my question, because you can see
John,
across.
I just got a whiff of your perfume. It's kind of nice. Sorry.
All right. Okay, tell us what you want, what you want to have.
Anytime, Steve.
Hey, Mirka, where is
Okay.
this in relation to the new construction that's there?
So the the main house, which is under the construction right now, I think that's what you are referring to, correct?
Yeah.
I don't know, I went from
Okay.
that vista, I looked across.
May I take a look so I
Yeah.
can properly understand? Okay, so if this the picture, this it's in this practically this area.
So
between
we're
the
gonna
shrub.
see it.
Well, you will. That's why I add the cross section because I just want you to understand that the pool is cut into grade. Since the grading, I even provided the proper grading plan as a second page. So the pool itself, it's set in the grade. It's dramatically drops at that area, but we are at elevation 23, correct?
Low side is towards the pond.
Yeah, it's actually low side. It's not even towards the pond,
Okay,
towards
so
the
this is
pond
where
plus
the
this.
house
So
is.
this is kind of, I'm cutting it
Yeah.
in this end.
It's gonna
This is
be
around
here.
25. So just to be exact, do I have a north side here? I apologize if I don't.
Clears
So
everything.
I'm cutting like a
between the pond
north
and
side
the
of the
pool.
well, just to
Just 25
just
feet
wanna just make
understood.
sure because I just wanna make sure we understand. So the grade drops, but it's kind of dropping towards the neighbors. So I'm actually, the north end of the pool is going to be cut in the grade. And then it's kind of a little bit more exposed on this end. So that's where the grading is way more pronounced. That's we have that clearing which will be all planted. So from the angle you took the picture, well, the pool itself will be retained with 24 inches wall. But again, there is pre-existing vegetation which is at least 6 feet tall. And plus, of course, whatever we disturb, I will replant. So you will only, so I do believe you will not see it when we are done because it will be set in the existing vegetation.
What about looking across the pond from the other side of the pond? Will you?
That's
see-
what I just
That's what
did.
she just took a picture
Oh,
of.
I'm sorry.
Which was actually a comment I had when the original.
Just here,
So
Oh,
I just really
just here.
believe it's will be really hardly.
Wood gate.
The pool itself won't be visible, but the retaining wall could be
You
visible.
have
But
the retaining, this little retaining wall right here, right?
Well, look, let's look.
If you're down here at the water or at
that's
the
the water,
pond,
correct?
and you're looking up,
Yeah.
and because you're down here, because
Yes.
of that thing, you're going to look up and you're going to look right at that retaining wall.
Possibly yes, but this all vegetation is
Yeah.
at least
And you're
6
not
to
going
8
to
feet.
strip between the
No.
pool and the
We are
pond.
stripping just enough to get the construction going,
Yeah.
and then we will bring the grade and replant it, everything what is taken away.
Because there's a topo plan
I
on the
don't
next
think they'll
sheet, so if
see
you might
that.
wanna look at that.
I don't understand those.
You lie.
Well, so, Madam Chair,
Yes,
my concern is looking across the Capon Pond, and so I just wanna make sure that you keep the existing buffer, you say existing buffer.
That's correct.
And then you have more plantings in front of the pool.
That's correct.
Because if somebody, there's, on the other side of the pond, they're way up high, and they're gonna be looking down.
Yeah.
So this vegetation should be pretty.
Yes, it
I mean,
will-
what's the height of this on
So
the
that's all would be bayberries.
south side of the?
Yeah, so that's all would be bayberries, viburnum, everything what is there pre-existing, we will match.
And the existing buffer, all of that,
It's, yes.
whatever.
So
that
all
is.
the
And they will
native, all the
replace
native
any-
stuff, so
that they tear up to put the pool in, she
What's
will
that scruffy
replace it.
stuff called? Is that like a Russian oak or something? What is that?
You mean bayberries
Scrub-
and viburnums and
scrub-
scrub oaks?
Yeah, I don't
Scrub
know,
oak.
I don't know what that stuff is around the pond, but,
Right now, what is there right now, it's the bayberries and viburnum mix.
okay.
Which is all, as I say, it's all of it is between, 6 to 8 feet high. It does drop, so it might appear, and again, as I said, it might appear it will be set in a grade, but I'm cutting it in to meet
We're
the
gonna
average
say
grade.
at the time of inspection, we're not gonna be able to see it from across the
The
pond.
pond,
That's,
right,
yeah.
with the retaining.
That's the dealio on that.
Madam
you
Chair, for a point of clarification, it's Washing Pond, not Capon Pond. I just wanted to clarify that.
Oh,
Can,
Washington.
It's Washing Pond.
Used to be called Capon Pond, didn't it?
No. Right, exactly. No, this is Washing Pond. or, what was another word for it? I think it was wanna.
Common?
Well, it's the one to the left of Washington Pond, right?
But the pond that you're gonna be able to see across, or could see across, is Washington Pond.
Right.
Okay.
I just
So,
wanted to clarify that.
You want
did I understand, yeah, may I just, so I understand that we're not gonna see this from a public way, is that my understanding? So I don't have to request that we have, poles put in at the height of the, pool surface?
It will not be visible.
Do
So-
you wanna see my picture?
But if it's subject to approval,
And we
not
can't see
viewable,
it?
not to be seen at the time of inspection or thereafter,
Yeah.
I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
Other pools up there. All right, may I have a motion?
That's my motion.
moved.
Okay, all those in favor?
But that doesn't mean from Washington Pond Road.
It means not viewable at the time of inspection or thereafter, period.
From any
Public.
public
Yes,
way.
right?
Okay.
Yeah, and just for a reference, there's a pool right next door, which is located way above the
Good point.
main house elevation. Therefore, it's almost like 15 feet higher than the pool I am
Okay.
proposing in a grade. So
Okay.
I'm really comfortable to say you will not see it.
Okay.
Thank
I don't
you.
think it's gonna be an issue.
All right, any more
so-
questions? What kind of perfume are you wearing?
I
Let's
will-
not get
She
personal.
doesn't have to.
That's my
Oh
secret
my
weapons, and I'm not sharing it.
Caught me
See,
off
look
guard,
at
I'll
that.
tell ya.
I got approval in
There's-
3 under 3. No,
Fire
and-
conversation
Thank
we
you.
want. Let's bring it together.
Okay,
Oh. Thank you, Mr. McLaughlin.
yeah, okay,
We're all set.
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay.
All right, I believe that there's nobody else here.
No.
Motion to hold,
Oh.
number 25, 7 Toombs Court for representation.
Right.
All in favor?
All right.
Okay,
Ooh.
now, I was listening to the first hearing, and Stephen, I believe you said that you wanted to hold some of these minutes? That was-
Yeah, if I would ask that we hold I would just ask that we hold them. I don't know, Kathy, do you know which, did we hear North Liberty, 27 North Liberty on the January 2nd? Do you happen to know?
No, it was on, well, I was away on vacation.
That would be the
and
7th.
was the 7th.
You were
That
not
was
the
Okay.
week after.
Right.
7th.
So I would just ask that we hold the 7 and the 14th.
Okay, but we can approve the second.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes
So moved.
of January 2nd?
Second.
Only.
What's that?
So
So
moved.
moved.
January
All
2nd.
those in favor of Diane's motion to approve the minutes of January 2nd?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, very good. Now, okay, so we got a few things here. I don't think we need to talk about the 112 Walnut Road appeal. We submitted information to the select board on that, and, you know, it's still in question as to whether that's actually gonna move forward. Mission statement,
So, mission statement, I just was gonna hold off till we thought we had full board and associates, so we could just finalize a vote. We reviewed a draft,
yes.
and then I was just gonna do that.
Do you want us to hold it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so 112, nickel gray, we're done. I confess that I don't know what the section 106 update is. I
Oh,
don't know- I don't-
so, as the HEC section 106 rep, I received a notification from the state that there was, some airport work in the works. I reviewed the narrative and the plans. I'll forward links to Kathy, to forward to you all.
Okay.
Much of the work involves grade level work, so for example, runways that, and/or that are legal and safety critical type improvements and changes.
Mhm.
Of note otherwise, there is an airport employee crew quarters, and to be proposed at a later date off of Nobadir, one of the Nobadirs, and a ground services building, which will be proposed on the airport grounds, all of which will be subject to our local permitting process. So I reviewed what they provided, and the proposals seem well in order to me, and of course, the HEC will get a bite of the apple when the local permits are submitted. So I just wanted to make you aware of that, and
Okay.
as I said, I'll provide the additional information.
Good. Super.
I just did.
Airport stuff.
The airport stuff.
I put my glass.
Okay. Do we want to discuss time management stuff now?
Yeah, speed it up.
Can I just touch on the three that were in mine? One is that we discuss a Thursday, the concept of perhaps revising the Thursday meeting time to a traditional 4:30 meeting, as opposed to breaking up everyone's day. These are refreshers, I'm not suggesting we need to. The other is that we start to develop the capacity to be doing digital projections, like when we reviewed the hospital for applications, so that we're quite literally all on the same page when we're reviewing an application. I think there'll be some challenges to that, but I think it will speed up our proceedings. The other is that much as with the planning board, we would get our applications digitally like we do with views, but not called through. So everything that comes in would be in the application at some point, including the pictures. And for instance, someone who likes to measure decks would be able to open them up and measure decks at home. Or if you want to pour over where the location is, you might have that information. I think it would help speed up our process. That of course involves a different level of input that once we're digitally entering applications will be easier to do. I'm not suggesting it's something we can do right now with staff resources as they are. So those were the three primary with respect to time management. The other one we've kind of started to implement, which is trying to corral this public, honoring our tradition of hearing public input, but at the same time trying to direct it in a productive manner so we're not chewing up all our time sitting here at the table. We have an opportunity to receive it into the record written in advance.
By the way, that's what the Concom does.
Yeah.
For any of you that's attended a Concom meeting, you know, there's the public portion, and then they close the public portion, and then they go and just debate among themselves, and can't say a word as a member of the public. So I have to say, I wasn't sitting on the application, but it was very successful tonight.
Yeah, thank you, Diane.
Yeah. So that all sounds good.
The discussion of the SDL guidance in the OHC Wisconsin Old Historic District, part of that, this is for Kathy, but part of that was, it came up in some discussion, is not.
Hold on a second. Diane, what did you just say?
No, she just said the taxi wasn't here yet.
Oh, not here. Okay, sorry. I thought you said it was here. Okay, continue, Stephen.
I think the gist of this is not all SDLs are created equally. So you
very true.
You get a Harvey Majesty that's got an 1.5 inch mutton.
Yep.
And you can get a Green Mountain that's got a more traditional 7/8, and so on and so forth. So it would be helpful for us at some point to develop guidance on those topics so that staff have, it's really just a matter of it comes in, oh, Green Mountain, yep.
So here's the difficult.
Not a Green Mountain, no.
Here's the difficult part about that. So dating from way back, this board, like any other board, can't say we approve of Marvin's in the old historic district and Boston Sash, but we do not approve of Anderson's. So you have to work in generic language.
But isn't it, we cover that with the vinyl?
Well,
exactly.
we cover
So you say like, you can't have vinyl cladding in the old historic district. And if you're gonna have a muntin, the muntin can't be any more than X number of inches wide. It can't be any more than X number of inches thick. So once you do that categorization, if Anderson or anybody else like that can't meet that qualification, then you can't use them.
Sure.
And you haven't singled them out.
Right. This is what we used to do way back. Way back. I've been here a long time. I counted up almost 30 years.
I know.
And that's what we did, and we didn't let them go around the corner and back and where you can't see and you can see that everything was that, and it cut down the amount of argument and discussion, because that's it. You used in the old historic district, the old true divided lights with no plastic sliders and stuff was used, and it was good. I don't know. It's gotten very sort of picky now, saying that, well, if you can't see it out in the backyard, you can put in SDLs, but if you have a 1850 house and you're putting in SDLs, then, you know,
Right.
it's to be considered. I think the way you put it was good. We didn't have so much overhead people looking at us all the time in the old days.
A lot has changed in the industry, the window industry, and so I think that between us, it would be pretty easy to come up with a list of requirements of the windows that would be used acceptable in the OHD without naming one manufacturer over another,
Yeah,
which you
just
have to be
the
really super
specs.
careful about.
Give them the rules rather than the names.
Exactly, yes.
Which is perfect. So that's something on our list, and then I think the only other one I didn't have, I don't have updates on the other ones.
So, Stephen, I know you wanted to add a couple more
Oh,
things for.
yeah, so
for
I was just
other
gonna
business
ask
for
that we
future.
put on for discussion on our next meeting, the demo article. So that'll come on from the
Okay.
Nantucket Historic Commission.
So, John, what that means, actually, we can't really debate this.
Right, so I just wanna.
So we'll put this on as other business, but it has to do with a demo article that's up on the town warrant.
Demo delay.
And demo delay, and we want to discuss that, so if we can put that in under other business.
I would pursue putting that up.
Holly, were you about to
I
say
know it's not on the agenda, but you're talking about putting it on the agenda. We did receive today from town council their, I guess, thoughts on that.
Got that.
Yes, you were
Yes.
copied on that, so we will
Yeah.
make sure that the commission also gets a copy of that.
Perfect. Okay, so again, we can't really discuss it now, but okay, so that will go on, yes.
So that'll be on our agenda, and I just want to remind you guys, obviously town meeting is coming up quickly, so we need to carve out a little bit of time at the end of the meeting to discuss this and the next one, because I think it would be important that we have time, because we need to, if we're gonna make a recommendation one way or the other. And then the other is just to follow up and have a little bit of our own discussion on this concept and what's going on. I think Holly brought this forth, well, I know she brought it forth, I think it's a great idea, are the historic preservation guidelines. So get our own little discussion
What about
going.
Thursday?
I'm not suggesting a
this
particular
Thursday?
meeting,
Yeah.
but our next agenda.
Well, Jesse and TJ are both away.
Do you know when?
I
Jesse
thought
this
TJ
week.
said 2 weeks, and Jesse said he was gonna be gone a week. Like,
Yeah, I think so.
Okay,
We
so
could do it
TJ was gone last week,
following
and he's
Thursday
gone
then.
now, so.
Right.
He's
theoretically-
gone now because he's not posting on Facebook at all.
So,
Excuse me.
he is probably back, he was gone
Yeah.
last Tuesday and this Tuesday, he's probably back
By next.
next Tuesday. Yes,
Can I have Steve repeat exactly what he wants on there again?
So
You said
number
the
one
two-
will be the demo delay article.
Right, I have that.
And the other will be the historic preservation guideline efforts.
Okay,
Okay.
And I guess
Yeah.
that would be Tuesday, because it's our next meeting.
yeah, well,
That's it?
that's it.
That's it.
I have a question.
Yes, John.
A while back, 6 months ago, whatever, they put myself, Steve, Valerie, on
Yes.
side committee.
That was in 6 months.
What's happened? Nobody's contacted me.
I was gonna
since.
ask you.
Huh?
I was gonna ask you what's going on.
That's what I'd like to know. We've not
Well,
had a meeting.
The last time we met, I asked John to please schedule out our next couple of meetings. I haven't heard from you. So I don't
Do you know
know.
what he's saying over there, John?
I
heard him.
can't do it.
I hear everything now.
Okay, we can bring that up on our one of our next groups if you want.
That's on here, right?
We haven't done it, so why bring it up?
Even better at this point.
I have spent so much time on these side committees, and we never get, this is not to you, this is just a general, years ago with Linda, different, and it never goes anywhere, and I feel like I'm spinning my wheels, so I haven't been anxious to restart.
Well, we had the specific issue was one of functionality.
Yeah.
And it's
And then I
a
had
bigger,
the
broader
radiation.
discussion that we need to have as an HDC to accomplish the work that I believe we need to be doing. There's some of that we can farm out, but we can't farm it out until we're clear on what it is we're farming out, because otherwise we farm it out and we get back something that maybe isn't what we're looking for, and we've wasted time and energy and money that we could maybe just not be bothered with. So
We get a chicken that looks like a duck.
yeah, thank you.
Okay. All right.
No chickens,
Looks like
no
Diane,
ducks.
your cab might be here at this point. Yeah. Okay. I guess
Motion to
we're ready
adjourn.
to go home.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn. Hey, thank you, everyone. It was a
Pictures.
good meeting.
Do we have to have a thing to adjourn?
So moved.
There was a motion,
Thanks for
right?
coming.
Okay, there's a motion on the table to adjourn. All
You're
those in
welcome.
favor?
Aye.
I only did some.
Diane.
Oh,
Did the hearing with that,
I'm so glad we got through that. Thank you.